for the runner Crow, and I look forward to this run. I hope this donation helps people in need and furthers the awesome mission of Doctors Without Borders. Thank you so much, Baron-san. And speaking of Crow, we're going to throw over to him for Secret of Mana, any percent, one player, one controller. Take it away, Crow.
Hello, everyone. I am Crow, and this is Secret of Mana. Excited to bring this speed run to you today. Joining me today is someone who has brought this game to Games Done Quick marathon events in the past, Yagamoth. Hey, Yagamoth.
Hello, good morning, and good night to some, I guess.
So this game, for anyone who isn't familiar with it, is an action RPG by Squaresoft, and it frequently shows up on best of SNES game lists. Yagamoth here has run this game at this marathon in a couple of different cases, but with a different game category than what we'll be doing today. This is a one controller run. I'll talk a little bit about what that means in a little bit, but for now, I do immediately need to know the winner of the donation bid war for the name of the boy, which is Randy is his default name. So what will he be this time?
Looks like Randy's name. Let me refresh this one last time. I don't want to... Oh, yep, Gammon. That's G-A-M-I-N. Gammon
doesn't mean anything to me, but for whoever it does mean something to, here you go. So,
I think it might just be Gammon.
So there's two other characters that'll need to be named. We'll have like 15 minutes or so before that happens, and when it does, they'll be kind of rapid fire one than the next. So if you want to get your name in for one of those, get going quickly. But for now, let's go ahead and get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. All right, so
Good luck.
This game will start off with a 2-minute or so long cutscene, so we do have a little bit of time to talk about what one controller means. The common, most popular way to speedrun this game at this time involves either actually doing co-op or confusing the game into thinking you're doing co-op by juggling multiple controllers in front of you at once. This allows you access to some co-op glitches or some versions of glitches that are much more reliable than what you'll be able to see done here. I will be able to achieve a lot of the same effects that the multiple controller run can do, but because the one best option that is always used in one form or another against every single boss in the multiple controller run, because that is not reliable and a lot slower in this category, that winds up meaning that a lot of stranger glitches, a lot of varied strategies, some of them from glitchless, some of them from no other category, wind up being worth taking your time out to learn to do and actually do in the run. So for now, we are going to start the game as many Mana series games begin, by falling down a waterfall, kind of a tradition. And once we land here, we are going to soon need to find a cutting implement, and what do we find but the Sword of Mana to just do some basic gardening with. And this is going to be both a plot mechanic and also a pretty important game mechanic. This game places a lot of emphasis on each individual type of weapon that you get. Each of your 3 characters will eventually have 3 here. Each of them will individually track the total weapon experience that they have on each one of the 8 different classes of weapons in the game. So in the end, I will want to get a fair amount of weapon experience on the boy, because of a rather peculiar game mechanic that exists for the final boss, where the true form of the Mana Sword, right now we'll have the level 1 Mana Sword, that one will be the level 9, but the true form will get a significant damage buff based on the total experience I've gained across all weapons for the boy. and it overcounts partial experience towards a weapon level much more than it should. So for that reason, there will be a lot of weapons that I want to get partial weapon experience for. But first, I actually want to get legitimate weapon levels. Why? Because each weapon experience level that you gain gives you the ability to charge up your weapons to one more level before attacking if you take the time out to do so. This will be worthwhile, for example, against a boss that burrows into the ground and you can only hit it every once in a while. Or it will also be pretty useful whenever you are trying to do the weapon overcharge glitch, which we will do plenty of against various bosses once we have the ability. So to that end, I am taking the time out to kill these cute little fluffy bunnies here. They are called Raybites, and they don't have a whole lot of experience or gold that they drop whenever I defeat them, but that's fine. What I want is weapon experience. And as far as gaining weapon experience is concerned, I gain the same amount as long as I'm killing something that is about the same level as myself. I'm currently a level 1 character, and the Raybites are also level 1, so we're in good shape there. We'll have some more shenanigans with level differences among characters later, but first, we arrive back in town, and we have the Mana Sword in hand, and that finally explains to them why there's suddenly a bunch of rampaging monsters. So pulling out the Mana Sword is set out a cataclysm of sorts, where all of the monsters of the world are going to be attempting to reclaim the power of mana for the forces of nature, or something like that. In any case, wherever Gammon here goes, will find monsters following him around, including the Mantis Ant here, who is the tutorial boss. And I need to stand a pretty precise amount of distance away from him if I want the ideal fight. I got a good position for a couple of the spots, but kind of in between for others. Overall, pretty good fight. If you stand to the left of Mantis Ant, he'll swing just one scythe, which is a safe way to fight, but faster is if you just trade blows with him from the front, or even faster than that is if you abuse the fact that in boss fights in this game, the weapon hitboxes are much larger than they normally are. So because of that, I can potentially hit Mantis Ant without him hitting me back. A bit of a caveat to all of that is that if I wind up getting a stab attack animation, which can happen if I'm standing too close to an enemy, then that attack animation is pretty slow, and it'll make it very hard for my next attack to get in before the Mantis Ant's counterattack comes in. Also, if I'm just a little bit slow, that'll also be a problem. Whenever something has precise timing in this game, most of the time it's not quite as tight as some of the other like precision platformer type games, because this game does run on a 5 frame rule, where essentially every other frame or every 3 frames, it divides up various animation tasks or other game engine tasks that need to be done. Some things are actually done every single frame, but especially attack animations and such wind up getting spaced out a little bit, and I have a little bit of leeway on doing that sort of thing. We're also pausing. In any case, I've just been booted from my home village because I'm nothing but trouble, so I'm going to set out and find Gemma, who invited me to go to the Water Palace to find out what it means to be the hero of the sword. Speaking of the sword, I have just gotten the sword experience level up to level 1, so I will be able to get through here. A couple of game mechanics as far as just walking around is concerned. Whenever I dash, I have to commit myself to a direction on that dash. I cannot turn. As soon as I stop dashing for any reason, including just running into stairs, apparently you're not allowed to run upstairs here. But anything that stops the dash will put me on stamina cooldown. You'll see my character flash as he restores his stamina, and at the bottom of the screen you'll see the percentage rise up as that happens. The difference between a full stamina attack and a just barely not full stamina attack is ridiculously gigantic. The math for that gets a little complicated, but it comes down to your hit rate getting an extra halving, and that most of the time puts you in the low damage roll category, which your low damage roll damage is scaled based on your hit percent, so that winds up being a double whammy there. Anyway, I have now found my way to the Water Palace. Gemma on the left is encouraging the boy here to seek out a way to restore the power of the sword itself, but specifically by hunting out some dwarves and reforging the sword that way, using some of the energy that we received in the form of an orb, of course, from Mantis Ant. Each of the bosses from this game will give me an orb of some sort, with like 2 exceptions. Luca, meanwhile, is giving Gammon a bit of a pep talk as far as getting him to go to all of the many different elemental palaces throughout the world. There's a total of 8, of which we'll actually complete 6. We'll do some shenanigans later on, but we do actually want to seal a lot of these mana seeds on the altars in these palaces. Each mana seed sealed increases the maximum level that I can level up my magic to once I gain magic. It'll be a little while before that happens, but next she also offers to let me save the game, which I will take advantage of immediately and reset. Whenever the game saves here, it remembers not where I was whenever I made the save. It instead remembers where I was when I entered the room in which I made the save. So since that happens to be at the bottom of all those stairs, and since Luca had a couple more things she wanted to say that aren't actually plot mandatory for me to listen to, I just go ahead and do the reset. And the reset is instantaneous because I can just do LR select start and reset that way. Next up, I walked a little bit too far down, which will involve 2 hits, which is fine as long as I don't take another. Getting poisoned hurts a lot in the early game, but isn't a big deal anywhere else. The ticking of 1 damage suffered per poison tick does not increase at all during the game. Some effects that can cause status ailments will become longer duration, but overall, the ticking damage from getting engulfed in flames or getting poisoned or whatever isn't ever going to be a significant problem. In any case, we are now going to take what is clearly the safest form of travel in the world, which is loading ourselves into a cannon, getting blasted a few thousand feet into the air, after which we plummet back to the earth, and the poor bee gets hurt along the way. He gets hurt more whenever we land with multiple party members at once, but first, before we get more party members, we will need to swindle the swindler here. This is Nico, the merchant cat. He charges double for everything that he sells you, as kind of a convenience store kind of a price, because he puts himself in the middle of dungeons and such as the dungeon I'm in right now. So anyway, I will buy 2 different items, look at the second, and then as I sell off, you may notice that the ring reformed with just 1 item left. The game can only reform the ring with 1 fewer item at a time. So if I load it with the memory of a large ring, such as the item ring of the buying menu, then it only removes 1 icon, specifically the icon of the candy item. And all the other icons are still here. So this allows me to sell what is effectively nothing. As long as I sell a non-multiple of 8 of nothing, it becomes something, which is called blacked. This is a glitched item that if I wind up accidentally using it, the game will crash. So let's not do that. Instead, let's go ahead and sell a multiple of 8 in the second item slot after we put stuff in item slot 3. This leaves a hole in item slot 2 because it is a glitched item, so the inventory does not properly collapse. And so whenever I buy my next pair of fairy walnuts, the fairy walnuts go into that empty slot 2. So I now have 2 fairy walnut slots. I can now repeat this with slot 1. I now have 3 slots devoted to fairy walnuts. Fairy walnuts restore your MP. I will be able to use MP in order to fund offensive magic casting, which will allow me to just kill stuff later. It occurs to me I should probably save because I took a hit from the flower earlier, so let's just go ahead and do that so we don't have to redo this portion just in case. So I'll go ahead and save here for marathon safety, and now we will progress into the rest of the dungeon, which is filled, oddly enough, with blats. That much is just a coincidence that it pulls the same name as an enemy that is elsewhere in this cave. No matter where I do that glitch, it'll still be called blats. The blats are dangerous because they can cast balloon. I have no answer to that right now. Balloon will force my character to just stand there and hold a balloon for a while, which if a kid goblin then walks up and just smacks me with his axe, well, that's that. I die. So rather than dealing with that, I have saved the game first. Pretty soon I will get a level. Indeed, I did just there. And leveling up in this game restores your HP. It does not restore your NP though. However, the remake of this game actually does restore your NP whenever you get a level up. There's a lot of interesting little quirks to the remake. I think it's pretty good. There are some shortcomings to it, and so it's not too surprising to me that it has mixed reviews. In any case, let's go ahead and pick up the magic rope over here. The chest there has an item that will allow me to return back to the entrance of the area. That kid goblin had already woken up, so because I hit him lightly, or at least I got a low damage roll, and that caused him to go into the lesser form of his ouch, I just took damage animation, and he recovers from that faster than if I had hit him hard. So that would have meant that I didn't have enough time to score my next hit before he would have been able to hit me. That's why I had to back off before continuing forward. At this point, I'm pretty close to having as much weapon experience on the spear as I want to get. If I was doing a multiple controller run, I would want to gain a full weapon level with the spear so that eventually I could do the multiple controller runs version of the weapon overcharge glitch. But because I'm doing a one controller speed run here, I actually want to short myself the weapon levels so that the mana beast fight will be stronger, because the actual weapon overcharge glitch will be done with one weapon only. So I just need the sword to be at level 2. And once I forge the sword with Watts here, I will be able to actually do that. Your maximum level that you can get your weapon experience to for each weapon is capped by the current amount of forging you've given the weapon. So this brings the sword up to level 2, which also makes it the strongest weapon I have at this time. So I will swap back to it after I've done the rest of my equipment shenanigans. Shenanigans of which are about to begin right around now. So this is an item shop that has a lot of pretty great early game equipment, especially this power wrist I'm buying right now. This gives +5 strength to anyone that wears it. So that is a very substantial increase to your damage output at this phase of the game. I'm actually buying a lot more of all this stuff than I require though. The reason for that is that I'm going to throw a bunch of it away while I am wearing it. The game will get confused at that point and try to find something to be unequipped after it's already been deleted. It does this in a strange way that, as a quirk of the programming, it winds up searching, that's not where I want to be, searching for the item in question in a place determined by the X position on the screen of the trash can icon. So, since the trash can icon's position can be set by me simply standing in a particular spot on the screen whenever I do it, I can make it look for something that it thinks in memory is something the boy has equipped. as it turns out, if you have 2 of a consumable item, that is flagged in the same way that the game flags that a piece of equipment is equipped by the boy. So all of those things I purchased 2 of a while ago, I now have 0 of all of those things. If I use one of them, the game will overflow from 0 back to 7 because it uses a 3-bit unsigned integer, which is a rather strange data type to use, but it's what they did. So, in effect, I now have 8 of each of the item slots that I picked up before. So that includes all 3 of the walnuts. So I now effectively, instead of having the intended maximum of 4 walnuts, I now have 24 walnuts in my inventory. So if I want to spend some NP, I can spend some NP at this point. We have just met the sprite right there. He isn't joining the party just yet, but he will very soon. I'm about to fight Tropicalo. I'm going to ask Yagamoth to take over commentary here, but our host, if you can start getting ready to lock in the final name for Papoy, that would be great.
Indeed. Alrighty, Crow is going to switch over to the sword and hold down his attack button, which allows him to charge the little bar at the very bottom here. This is basically charging up his attack to a level 1 charge attack. A level 1 charge attack deals 50% more damage, and, well, it is quite nice because Tropicalo here can only be hit while he is outside of its shell, and if you time your attacks just right, you get to hit him twice per cycle. Normally, when you play this game casually, you will likely just hit him once and he immediately burrows back down without you being able to hit him again. And with the, well, good timing that Crow has currently, he can just hit him twice each cycle, and that also helps. Also, some of you might be wondering what happened to the second vine on the screen. Well, based on which buttons you hold at the beginning of combat here, you actually just spawn that off screen or something like that. Either way, it's just not there if you hold down the B button. It's kind of curious. And you got it already. Nice. Well played.
Thanks. But yeah, there's a lot of little things that are very strange about this game if you take a careful look at things. There's supposed to be 2 Bramblers, one on the left, one on the right, and the one on the right is the one that just doesn't show up on screen as long as you're doing anything as the game begins the fight. So, yeah, kind of strange there. Anyway, we do need to name the sprite now, so our illustrious host, what was the winning name?
The winning name was Nico.
Niko?
Niko.
All right. So Nico it is. Not the same spelling as Nico, the swindling cat that we swindled just a little bit ago.
With an S at the end? Nikos?
Oh, was it an S? Well, it's Nico now. I can't actually go back, unfortunately.
Oh no,
if
it
was.
is Nikos. Wow, holy moly. Sorry, there was another donation on a different name that was Nico, and now it Nikos with an S. Sorry, that's my bad. Right, Nico it is. It's actually correct. My bad.
Okay.
That's a crazy donation.
Phew. All right, so we are about to do another glitch here. It is a variant on the glitch we just did before with equipment trashing. This time, rather than pointing the memory at the consumable items, I'm instead pointing it by way of where I'm standing on the screen, and after having scrolled the screen a specific amount by using the stairs to set myself up, I caused the game to point at the weapon inventory. So since the sprite is currently holding the sword, and I told the game to look for something the sprite has equipped and then I equip it. As far as the weapon inventory is concerned, at this point, no one is holding the sword, even though the sprite knows that he is holding the sword. So, if I select the boy then there is, of course, nothing stopping him from picking up the sword also. So now we've got 2 swords, which is nice for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's the only weapon I have leveled up to level 2 that won't require any sort of extra effort to get up to level 2. The sword also can cut flowers and such if I need to cut a path through something. That's a thing the game occasionally does. And I'm not talking about these flowers, although I will cut those with the sword too. Also, the sword is at present the most powerful weapon I have, so it is nice to have 2 of them. The level 2 sword also has the added bonus of increasing my agility slightly, which will increase my hit rate against those enemies that have evasion. Thus far, none of the enemies I care about have it, but eventually enemies will just start ignoring my attacks a random amount of the time. And the amount of the time that happens will go down as I gain additional agility. So at the beginning of the game, it's going to be often that they dodge, and as things go on, it'll be less. It is possible to do a glitch in order to avoid this fight right here, and the girl got in the way by talking to me. That is a little unfortunate there. And we are going to have to get the girl's name very soon here too. It is possible to skip this meeting with the girl and not rescue her from the werewolves at all. However, if you do that, then a lot of the bosses in the mid-game become ridiculously dangerous because they cast spells against your whole party, and that damage is supposed to get divided among 3 party members, but if you only have 2 party members because you skipped the girl for a while, then you get one shot by those bosses, and that's no good. In any case, I need the name now, so what do we got?
All right, Prim's nickname is Karen. Karen, Karen.
Like, as in Karen Sajet, the person that got infused into the mothership in the game Homeworld?
Yep, I'm pretty sure that's the one.
Sweet. Okay. So now that Karen is joining us before heading over to Higara, we will need to make sure she survives the trip. So we will go ahead and give her equipment. It is very important that you have something. It doesn't matter what. As long as you have something equipped on all 3 of your item slots, your head, your shoulders, and your arms. Not your knees and toes. That would be something else. That is the only practical way in this game to gain additional evasion. And having more evasion is required for your defense power to actually work. So your characters have a fair amount of base defense power just because of the stamina that they have. But that stamina kind of gets ignored if the character doesn't have enough evasion to get a high defense roll, because a high defense roll and a high attack roll kind of operate off of the same math. The whole thing is kind of weird, and I suspect they had grander plans with like having the enemies scale their evasion over the course of the game. But as it turns out, in the final release here, enemies either have 99 evasion or they have 0 evasion. Oh wow, okay. If I just crit that Robin Hood, then I guess I just don't have to worry about it. Anyway, unfortunately, killing that Robin Hood so quickly caused another Robin Hood that doesn't usually spawn to do so. So I wound up losing a little bit of time. Anyway, so I will have to take out this guy, and I will have to get a little bit more weapon experience along the way here. And this area requires some focus to deal with, especially like the werewolves. So if Yagamoth, you could take over commentary for a little bit, that would be spectacular.
Sure, we can do that. So these werewolves, as you know, or if you have played this game casually in any capacity, you know that they are pretty mean. Crow kind of has the best equipment he can get with the route he took so far, so he is pretty much going to survive the werewolves, but it is going to be more efficient to just ignore them as the best of his ability. Further, once again, to reiterate, he's trying to level up the sword on the boy to level 2 before the next boss. Because the next boss, some of you might still have nightmares from playing this casually, because that is actually a really mean one. So let's see. Also, I think we may have a bit of time for some donations for like 1 or 2.
All right, great. We've got $50 from B Dragon 28. Says, let's defeat the final boss. And as if to answer, Ace Burrito gives $20 and says, wait, why are we removing feet from people? I don't think this behooves our viewing experience. Is SGDQ making a heel turn away from helping people? I'm putting my foot down. Thank you for those donations and those wonderful puns.
Wow.
I will be providing commentary for a run through Quest for Glory 1 later on in this marathon, and I therefore very much so appreciate maximum punitude. The Sierra adventure games are very much known for that sort of thing. In any case, we are approaching the first case where I will use the weapon overcharge glitch. In order to make this setup work a little bit better, I am going to put a barrel on Nico. Thankfully, Nico, the cat, allowed me to put a barrel on Nico, the sprite. So the barrel will protect Nico from anything that is considered physical damage. This will include the gnawing attack that Spiky will do if he chooses to stay on the ground and there is someone in range for him to chew on. So I will use the sprite essentially as a pacifier to make sure that Spiky stays still long enough for the overcharge to happen. As for the overcharge mechanic, I'm going to confuse the game's AI. I'll do it first and then I'll explain what I did. So first of all, I need to make sure the girl is not unconscious, otherwise she will stand up at a very inconvenient time. So please stay down. He did not. Unfortunately, if Spiky Tiger decides to go to the high ground, there is nothing I can do about that. The barrel will protect Nico from fire breath. It will not protect from fire bouquet. If a second fire bouquet comes his way, I will need to heal him. Generally speaking in this game, if there is something bad happening to the character you are currently controlling, the solution to the problem is to select a different character. Because the character, any character that is currently suffering damage or is in the middle of a spell or a spell animation or whatever, that will cause, oh, well, of course we have marathon luck here. So any of that will cause, oh no, oh that's unfortunate. Of course we have marathon luck today. Please start chewing on the sprite. Okay, we should have enough time to do this probably. Unfortunately, the boy's a little behind his usual schedule here. I think this will be fine, probably. Yeah, let's just go for it. Okay, we got it. Sweet.
Nice.
Well, we have our best laid plans for all these fights, but things can always go wrong, especially in one controller, because generally speaking, in one controller, the enemy gets more time to work with. And you also frequently have to rely on the cooperation of your AI-controlled other party members. So whenever the enemy chooses to do something and it doesn't happen to be what you want, you have to just deal with it. And unfortunately, this time we just had to deal with a lot of problems. But we have gotten through the fight, and now Elena, the witch, who has been selling people to get more magic herbs from Thanatos, well, she's seen the error in her ways, and she'll now go back to just being an old woman. That means she doesn't have any magic for us, though, which means we still can't get into the underground palace, which the sprite wants to get into in order to potentially restore his memory, as we also seal one of the mana seeds. It's kind of the main McGovern of the game here. So, on the way out of the castle, we did pick up a whip, which we will of course give to the girl. The whip will allow us to do some Indiana Jones style cliff jumping. And we will also use that mechanic, or at least the posts that are supposed to be part of the mechanic, in a bunch of ways the game never intended. If you want to walk through walls, like 80% of the time, your solution to doing so involves using the whip posts. But for this first instance, we will actually use the whip posts in the way they were intended. So this is a back entrance to the Haunted Forest here. This is the way Diluc had originally entered this area in the first place. Unfortunately, we never actually caught up to Diluc. We saw him disappearing right as we entered the room with the witch. So now we're back at the Water Palace, and as it turns out, the elemental spirit of water is currently in some sort of danger, so we need to deal with that. There's a bunch of fish in the way, and there's also a cute little tadpole thing that if you deal it a bunch of damage, it's supposed to turn into an even cuter biting lizard that I actually use as my avatar in pretty much any service that allows you to have such a thing. But by doing the weapon overcharge glitch, we will kill it in one shot, thereby denying it the opportunity to make that transformation. So instead, you'll just see it sleeping over there. Next up, a minor glitch. I am going to use the magic rope and then talk to Undyne, which will move the conversation over here. And at this point, we have a conversation with, it's supposed to be Undyne, but instead going to be some fish. My characters will go into walls, which will mean I'll have to use the boy. And after this, I'm going to swap the boy's weapon to the pole dart, which we're about to get. And that'll be a good weapon for him to get some weapon experience on. But apart from that, we're going to be making a trip back to Gaia's Navel, which is a place we've been before. We're going to be fighting a bunch of enemies that are very old at this point. So if you want to get some donations in, now is probably a good time.
Yeah, we've got plenty. We've got $200 from Stinger PA.
Hey, Stinger.
Yeah, they say, just want to say good luck to Crow. I'm super happy he's finally getting to show off his baby of a category, as he has been working on Secret of Mana 1 controller for several years at this point. Best of luck to GDQ staff and volunteers putting on this show for MSF, and let's keep those donations coming. And we've got $50 from David TKI. They say, you're not going to lay a finger on that final boss. Donation goes towards defeat. Just one question. What is the Secret of Mana?
The Secret of Mana most likely is found in a cutscene that we never see, that's supposed to happen at the end of the Pure Lands, which we never visit. So, unfortunately, you will have to play the game yourself to find out. You will not find out here.
Got time for some more donations?
Here. Yeah, time.
Great. We've got $2,020 from Fangamer.
Nice.
They say, hey, everybody, Fangamer here. We're excited to once again partner with GDQ to offer our brand new SGDQ 2020 merch line with 100% of profits supporting MSF. Head on over to fangamer.com/GDQ to see our new pullover hoodie, limited edition finale pin, arcade floor face mask, and the very special virtual attendee badges. These official GDQ badges will give you the full attendee experience from the comfort of your living room. Available in 3 different variants, our high-tier Giga badge has a goal to reach. If 500 are sold before the end of SGDQ, they will all receive a shiny foil upgrade. We're currently at 163 of the 500 we need. Let's get to 500 and raise some big donations for MSF. Thank you so much, Fangamer, for that wonderful donation. We really appreciate it. Just a little update. We are at 7,500 of the 8,000 needed for the defeat the final boss. So let's try to finish that out as quick as we can.
All right, so we are now in the underground palace. The goblins here are much scarier than the goblins that we found in the earlier parts of Gaia's Navel. The issue is that, first of all, they wake up automatically instead of waiting for a while, and waiting also for your presence before they wake up. But another big problem with them is that they frequently use their boomerangs. And the general rule in this game is that your boomerangs suck, whereas enemy boomerangs are horrifying. Because they get to rethrow the boomerang as soon as it's reached the furthest part of its trajectory. Whereas when you use a boomerang, the boomerang has to return to you before your stamina even starts replenishing. So that's pretty awkward there. So at this point, I am going to practice a little bit of magic. Each individual element, kind of like how each individual weapon type in this game gets its own level up for each individual character, the same applies to each element of magic. So I am gaining progress now towards leveling up the water element for the sprite, which will allow me to obliterate a lot of enemies, especially in the mid-game with the freeze spell. Freeze, despite being the first damage spell we've gotten, is actually the strongest one in the game by most measures. It's every bit as much damage as the Exploder or Thunderbolt spells that cost twice as much. And the ice element is usually fine to use against pretty much everything. And I somehow just forgot to do an extra physical attack on this guy as the fight began, which I'm sure is not going to be a problem at all. Anyway, oh, and then I messed up the chain on that second part of the spell casting. This is probably going to be okay. I have enough armor and I have enough HP that even if Fire Gigas here winds up starting to cast a whole bunch of spells, I'll still be okay. And unfortunately, it looks like that is going to happen. So this disappearance act, which you're not supposed to see because this is not supposed to happen, but unfortunately I made a small error, and also there were pretty bad damage rolls with the spells. Damage output on spells is extremely random in this game, and almost always one physical attack and 8 spell casts, which is what I ultimately did there once I got everything straightened out, should handle this guy just fine. But if he winds up getting some good defense against the spells, then sometimes I'll need a second attack, and unfortunately, because I just forgot to do the first attack, that meant that the second attack I did later was substituting the first and wasn't giving me the extra safety in case I got low damage rolls. So the marathon run's going about as you would expect a marathon run to go, but we survived. We're moving forward, and overall, even though that was very scary, we didn't really lose that much time off of it. So we'll go ahead and get moving on here. Sealing this mana seed is not needed as far as progressing the plot is concerned. If you forget to seal this mana seed, even though this cutscene here kind of makes it look like it's needed, the only thing that you need in order to get into the next dungeon turns out to be that talking to Gnome. So the multiple controller one will actually skip the seed here, but sealing that seed gives me the ability to start leveling up my magic to higher heights. Each mana seed that you seal gives you more bonus damage on your high damage rolls, and it gives you another level that you can get your magic elements leveled up to. So we are now up to a maximum level of 2, but previously we were at a maximum level of 1. So this will be important, especially for the Northtown Ruins bosses, where I'm really going to want to have the level 4 magic. So to that end, I will actually seal 2 seeds prior to that point that I don't technically need to seal. So at this point, I am going to be traveling through familiar territory, getting over to Pandora, which this part of the trek is not particularly scary, so if you want to get another donation in, now's probably a good time.
Sure, we've got $50 from Ian and Aria. It says, my daughter and I have played Secret of Mana many times over. We are hyped for this game and even more hyped for this event. Stay safe and go fast. Thank you for your donation.
All right. So Pandora turns out to be the girl's hometown. This is where Diluc is from. That's also where the girl's friend Fauna is also chilling, and she's currently in the southern section of town. And just kind of arbitrarily, the fact that I have talked to Gnome now allows me to get Fauna to let us into the ruins here. Thanatos is setting up shop here and is leading a cult wherein everyone gets their life energy drained, which is, of course, not so great, and we're going to have to put a stop to that. But first, we'll have to deal with what is effectively a dungeon along the way there in the form of these ruins. There will be a couple of minor tricks here. One is going to be coming up pretty quickly with a sword that is... It starts in a stand that keeps it safe, but shortly after it becomes not safe, it will attack. So I need to make sure my allies hit it at the exact right moment, or else they'll get caught up by it. So this is actually a trick Yagamoth had come up with there. Dash diagonally into the wall like that, and your allies will happen to attack at exactly the right time. Even though my allies are on their default position of extremely passive behavior, even in the passive behavior, if they are currently too close to an enemy, they will freak out and attack. Another thing I did was earlier in this room, at the top of the stairs, I dashed up and left diagonally. In this game, there are only 3 enemies that can be spawned at once. So as you scroll through the area, it tries to predict where you're going and spawn enemies as appropriate based on the direction you're going. However, for whatever reason, the game is not particularly great at identifying which way you're going if you're moving diagonally. So by dashing diagonally up and left into the wall, even though I was only moving horizontally, the fact that I was trying to go diagonal caused a tomato man not to show up at the top of the stairs. That tomato man turns out to be a big pain, so despawning him is nice. There are a bunch of other places in the game where I'll use a similar trick, or other cases where I'll just try to intentionally get enemies to spawn before moving forward, so that the next enemy doesn't have any slots to be spawned into. Anyway, I got a bit of an unlucky slowdown cast by one of the zombies, just made the boy move slower for a while. It's almost as if they know we're trying to speedrun here. This boss here will be another magic based defeat. I am 2 MP short. I sure hope that's not a problem. Because of the shenanigans that happened with the previous boss, I now am a little bit short on MP here, so I hope it's going to be fine. I believe my usual strategy is slight overkill on the average case, so as long as I get pretty good damage rolls, it'll be fine. Otherwise, I'm going to have to wait for all the MP to get filed into the sprite here. You'll see 2 sets of 50 in a row because I've queued up that much, and he is dead. Okay, good. Got slightly lucky on those damage rolls. If I had gotten a little bit lower, the left eye would have taken his first turn, and the left eye has as an option that he can do a Cure Water spell targeting the middle eye, which would undo a whole bunch of my damage, and that would have been a whole bunch of extra time lost. But as is, I think at this point we're pretty much back in the state where we want to be after all of those shenanigans earlier. So Thanatos runs off, he releases most of the villagers, but holds on to Dialogue and Fauna just so that he has that on the girl's mind. Anyway, okay, needed the woman there to move away from Gemma. I need to talk to Gemma to get out of this region, but I believe that younger woman there will actually take priority over Gemma if I try to talk to both of them at once. So I had to wait for her to separate. In any case, it is now time for me to head back once again to Gaia's Navel. This is a place we visit a lot of times. This isn't the last time we're going to visit there either. But since the trip is not especially dangerous, and since I am going to use cannon travel rather than walking through the new quote-unquote path that I could have taken to the left, I think this is a pretty safe place for some donations to get read.
Yeah, you got it. And here's an answer for how we got one of our nicknames tonight. Anonymous donates $2,000, saying, after 3 decades of trying, I was recently able to play through this thanks to my friend, Nico. Thank you, Nico. Now I can watch this without getting spoiled.
Nice.
Yeah, we've got Jag34 gives $50 saying, what? Beat the final boss using only feet? Yep, donating. Thank you for that donation. And that's right, we are getting real close. We're at 78.43 out of 8,000 to get the any percent 1 player, 1 controller to turn into 1 player, 2 feet to defeat the final boss. So make sure you're getting that closed out. We've got $10 from Greetings from Chile. It says, as a child, I was never able to finish this game. I love the music and the gameplay too. Good luck with the run. And I've got $10 from Josh Adams. This commentary for the Secret of Mana run is brilliant and detailed. It makes the run even more enjoyable. Well done, Crow.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so at this point we are going to meet the next set of villains. Up to this point we've seen Thanatos. We're about to meet the Scorpion Army. These guys are kind of the comic relief bad guys. They are trying to convert mana power into making money, and their first attempt to do so is to build a super robot that they call Kilroy. And we will need to bust up Kilroy because it's going to go haywire because they're trying to power it with a mana seed, which turns out to not be a good idea, which is a lesson that Santa would have done well to learn, but he doesn't, so I'll talk about that later. For now, I do need the boy to start doing overcharge attacks again. This guy does not have any elemental weaknesses like the last couple of bosses did, so I will use the overcharge attacks against him instead. Unfortunately, this is the first boss I'm going to use overcharge against that has an evasion rating. So somewhere around a little under 40%, I would say, of the time, whenever I try to attack this guy, he's just not going to take any damage. This time, we did hit the first try, which is great, because if we didn't, eventually Kilroy would have had an opportunity to do a spinning attack with his hammers, and his hammers will inflict the Moogle status effect, which will turn your characters into cute little Moogles who unfortunately cannot attack. The girl would have been safe from that because she was wearing a barrel, solid stake style, but the boy could have had his attempt interrupted there. So I am going to now use another minor glitch. I'm going to use the magic rope and then walk out of the area. You may have noticed that the music was slightly wrong for a moment there. That was the event for going to Kilroy's region firing, despite the magic rope's destination getting set as where we're going. So just a cute little trick there. It saves a little bit of time because the magic rope animation is slower than that transition animation. And I don't usually get both flowers showing up here. At this point, the boy does not have a weapon he needs any weapon experience equipped right now, so the sprite can get some weapon experience. I do eventually need him to participate in the overcharge, but that's not for a while. There's no real rush on getting that to happen. At this point, I will go to the Water Palace, and I'm going to fight Jabberwocky.
Don't forget to save.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Crow.
Jabberwocky is a dangerous fight.
Crow, I've got some good news. I hope you've been flexing your toes, because we have just met the 1 player, 2 feet, defeat the final boss incentive.
All right.
Nice.
So I guess I'll have to get ready to do some defeating with my feet, but that's not for a while yet. We do have to beat a whole bunch of other bosses along the way, but a little bit of background on that while we take a safety save here. The whole reason that I have that skill at all is that a while ago I was dealing with carpal tunnel, and I still wanted to play video games, but that was hard to justify wasting my wrist usage time on. So my solution for speedrunning was to pull out an old arcade stick style controller called the Super Advantage. You can look it up. Or you just wait around and you'll see a picture of it pretty soon live as I use it with my feet. Because it is an arcade stick style controller, that gives me a lot more space to work with to press the buttons as needed. I also am wearing one sock and not two, so that my left toes can be cushioned while they deal with the stick, while my right toes can actually press all the buttons. But for now, I do have to deal with Jabberwocky. Yagamoth, if you could take over commentary here, that would be great.
Sure. Alrighty, Jabberwocky can be rather dangerous because he actually likes to take a lot of actions or a lot of potential actions very quickly in succession, and he has rather strong spells that he can throw at you that can, with a low-level party like this, quickly lead to game over unless, well, you can handle it properly. He usually doesn't even cast any spells. Well, usually. Also, Crow just threw one just spell at him before he started the overcharge with the boy. This is to both add a little bit of damage to the Jabberwocky, but also on top of that, wow, you're already done. I'm way too slow. On top of that kind of buffer that he can heal or attack with the overcharges more safely. Also, I think you did a retainment, right?
Yes, I did get the charge retain there. There's a trick in the multiple controller run where you can just do that all the time with every attack and just never drop your overcharge. With the one controller run, you have to rely on frame rules where you swap control from the sprite to the boy in this case. And while I did that, I also had I started pressing the B button as I did so, and this gave me the initial attack because I was swapping characters and the character was not pressing the B button as I swapped in, but then because I started pressing B soon thereafter, the game never dropped the charge state, so I was able to do a second charge. But once I release that, there's no continuing from there. I get 2 shots and that's it. In this case, it turned out to be necessary. I unleashed the first attack too early and got a low damage roll, and because the combination of things happened, Jabberwocky didn't wind up going down at first. But eventually my Vorpal blade did go sufficiently snicker snack. Haloo, Calais. Lewis Carroll reference there for anyone that didn't get it. I have enchanted the boy's weapon with Stone Saber. Stone Saber will petrify enemies as it scores hits 75% of the time. A petrified enemy loses half their HP and then takes the damage from your strike. And then also they're stunned for a while. It is brutal. And anytime where you do want to fight normal enemies, I highly recommend having Stone Saber active. It is really good. So the primary point of Stone Saber here is actually not the easy little enemies I was just fighting there. It's these enemies in this region here. I do want to get some whip experience with the boy. Again, for anyone that's tuned in recently, I am trying to get weapon experience on the boy without getting full weapon levels, because that weapon experience is overcounted when it comes to adding in bonus damage to the final form of the Mana Sword during the final battle. So that'll hopefully get me into a state where I can eventually defeat, literally, the final boss in a single cycle. Assuming I execute correctly, using some digits that have slightly less dexterity than normal, shall we say. But hopefully we'll be able to do it. In any case, I am just going to blast the Pebblers here with magic. Again, I could use the overcharge, and in the multiple controller run, although that run does usually just solve most of its boss fights with some form of the weapon overcharge glitch. There is still a fair amount of nuance to it. One example can actually be found here, where the whirlwind style attack, where your character just starts swinging the sword and does some spin to win action and flies all the way across the screen and all over the place, that can be used to usually hit all 3 pebblers at once. And you can actually pick that with the power of pause buffering, which is a thing that is practical to do with the multiple controller version of weapon overcharge. Here, though, because I can't really rely on getting the whirlwind attack, it is definitely worthwhile for me to just simply go ahead and use magic instead. I'm going to need the magic experience later anyway, so it's no real big deal for me to go ahead and pick it up now. Unfortunately, the boy just got confused, which is going to be a problem. Confusion causes your character's inputs to be reversed. This even includes when you're in menus. So right there, I press down and then A in order to dash upward. And I don't know when it's going to wear off. So once I get out of this cutscene, I don't know if I'm going to be confused still or not. So I'm going to switch over to control the girl so that I don't have to worry about that. So this is Springbeak. He is weak against gnome elemental spells. Unfortunately, Springbeak's titular beak happens to be a giant shield. And because between that and also the fact that your weapons are much larger than they normally are during boss fights, as far as, actually detecting hits on the enemy is concerned, throw all that together and hitting this guy with an overcharge is pretty unlikely. Another big problem is actually the same problem that would have been posed. I don't actually need to do that. I do, however, want to do this. Okay. Another significant problem for that is the fact that Springbeak jumps around. And whenever he's high in the air, he's too far away from my allies for them to continue trying to attack. If my allies aren't trying to attack, they aren't charging up. If they aren't charging up, I can't get them to do the overcharge glitch. So any enemy that jumps, disappears, or makes themselves invincible for a lot of the time in other ways, those sorts of enemies tend to be ones I use magic against instead of physical attacks. So at this point, I'm going to talk with the sprite's grandfather, and we will pick up the Sylphid spirit, which will give us the ability to cast wind elemental spells. Unfortunately, those spells kind of suck. The strong one, Thunderbolt, has too fast of an animation for it to be practical. It won't stun lock enemies, which means that if you're using that to deal damage to enemies, they get to fight back. And you don't want bosses in this game to actually get to do anything if you can avoid it. You'd much rather continuously stack spells and make that not a thing. Anyway, I am actually going to go ahead, because he offers to save the game, let's just do it and have that extra little bit of safety there. And then I am going to once more use the magic rope and then trigger a cutscene. Oddly enough, if the seed is on the altar and is not spinning, you can be above it and then face away from it. And that, for some unknown reason, will allow you to talk with the seed. So I did that in order to talk with it from behind, rather than dealing with the stairway, which, if you've noticed, stairways in this game stop you from running, which is not a happy thing for a speedrunner. So these Silk Tails will conveniently stack themselves up, and I actually failed to get those kills onto the boy as I had intended. It'll be okay, though. I have some leeway on exactly how much weapon experience I get on the boy. I do want a bunch, though. This crystal orb responds to the air blast spell. That's why I needed to pick up Sylphid. If it weren't for that one crystal orb, if we could figure out some way to hack the crystal orbs and make them respond to the wrong spell, without having had the right spell at all, that would help a lot. It would skip Springbeak. It would skip, honestly, the entire Underground Palace, most likely, because there are some weird glitches that would be relevant in that case. But to our knowledge, that's not a thing that can happen. For now, I do need to pick up the axe for a bit, so I will pick up some weapon experience on the axe as we go through, just because it's free for us to do so. I'll talk about why in a bit. But I need the axe also to bust the boulders in that cave right there. Coming up is a glitch that's somewhat famous for being able to return into Potos. What's going to happen is I'm going to mash the select button, and that's going to let me pass through this guard where I was supposed to have to talk with the king here, King Truffle of Matango. But the reason that works is that each time you swap control, that is actually super unfortunate right there. Oh, and we get Sleep Flower, of course. Actually, that's fine. Okay, so the reason the select mash works is that if you swap control, you get one frame where you act as if you were a AI controlled character instead of a having a bit of trouble with the normal enemies here. That's why I'm kind of stuttering on commentary. Yagamoth, want to take over for a bit here?
Sure. Real quick about this area. This is one of the most difficult areas to run through as a speedrunner. And by the way, just kind of as a heads up for anybody who may have joined later, the reason why the category is called one player, one controller is because the standard category we tend to run is two controllers. And they also actually skip one of the characters, so that means you're not getting stopped as much in this area, which still makes it really difficult to do efficiently and quickly. Having a third character trailing behind you that you have to somehow get through here too makes it extra difficult. So basically, one player, one controller is, generally speaking, a fair bit more difficult than one player, two controller. So that's a thing. Also, the reason why you can pass through NPCs is as long as your weapons are not run, as in you're not in combat mode, AI control characters can walk through NPCs, and you basically just let your AI control character, pixel by pixel, just walk slightly further through the NPC if you just mash select and push against them, as long as your camera is in the correct position. Also, Crow is using another little trick here, where he's actually casting some spells, and then at the end he casts the correct spell to activate this orb in order to open up the passage. That allows him to, well, just do this slightly more efficiently, because the trigger triggers slightly earlier. Not entirely sure about the exact mechanics for that. That's a lot of medical herbs used.
Yeah, I'm down to 3 now. That's ridiculous. I don't think I have ever been that low at this point. I mean, it wouldn't be a GDQ marathon run if everything were going to plan, I guess, but sheesh. They're getting really excited with all the status effects there. So I will get to have a fairly straightforward fight against Great Viper here. Great Viper is weak against Sylphid. I've already complained about Sylphid's magic, so that should explain why I'm not using it. Another reason I'm not using it is that one of the other bosses down the line that's supposed to be weak against Sylphid is a boss we now know how to skip altogether. So with no benefit down the line for leveling up Sylphid, I'm instead just going to level up Undyne, which will be a generically powerful spell that is very convenient because of its ability to keep enemies stunned for a long time, in addition to all the other stuff it does. So that should allow me to get through the rest of the game pretty easily, or at least up until the point where the sprite's magic ceases to be useful to me, which will be about the same time we gain the ability to fly. We'll talk about that once we get there, but for now I have defeated Great Viper, and I've also gained a whole bunch of weapon experience on the boy for no reason. There are a few bosses in this game, and incidentally, the next one that also does this is the next boss we're going to fight. But there are some bosses that, as either the boss fight begins or as it ends, or in some cases both, the boy is treated as if he had defeated some enemies with his weapon as far as gaining weapon experience is concerned. My guess in the case of the Great Viper is that it has something to do with the way they coded the various little orbs that make up his tail. So as those are deleted from the screen, he gets a bunch of weapon experience as if he had slain them. But I'm not sure why exactly that would have to happen, but it does. In any case, we have now rescued Flammy. Flammy will eventually be our ticket to flying, but right now he's a little small. He'll join up with us again later, but for now, King Truffle will take care of him. I will take a very brief detour here to Watts in order to upgrade the sword. This is to get some free weapon experience onto the sword for the boy, because whenever the boy now kills an enemy with the weapon overcharge glitch, which will happen from time to time, he will get weapon experience for that now, which will give him a little bit more damage on the final boss. And as we all know, the final boss is super important. Anyway, at this point, I am going to go through a canon travel section, and then I'm going to get lost in the desert. I'm going to wander around in the desert until eventually I get picked back up. It's a fairly straightforward procedure, so if you have some donations to read, now would be a good time for it.
I sure do, and here's one that seems pretty appropriate. Lord Licorice donates $50 and says, "Secret of Mana is my childhood, and I'm glad to see it at Games Done Quick. Say hi to Flammy for me."
Hi.
All right, and then here come the puns. We've got Anonymous with $10 that says, "Okay, I'll toe the line and kick in a few to bring this donation incentive to heal." And we've got Miltonius Prime with $20 saying, "Anyone promoting foot-related puns is my arch enemy." Oh man, what did I ask for here?
Does that mean he's his own arch enemy?
Seems like it. And we have an anonymous donation for $3,000. Thank you so much for that generous donation.
Wow, that's crazy.
Casey Stranger donates $50 saying, "Donating a quarter for every time my AI teammates got themselves killed during my Secret of Mana playthrough." Comes out to about 200 times if my math is right.
Yeah, it is actually a very important skill to gain if you do pick up any category of this game, to learn how it is the AI behaves. Because some of it is random, but a lot of it is not. A lot of the time, the way they try to form up with you is dependent on things you have control on. For example, if you walk vertically or horizontally versus if you walk diagonally, their behavior is completely different. Also, if you dash into a wall, a lot of the time that'll get them to form up on you if you need them to do that. But yes, they are very bad at figuring out how to get around an obstacle, and sometimes you just have to know which kinds of obstacles are going to be problems, and oh wow, we have some NPC trolling coming up here, oh don't we? Okay, actually it was a lot less bad than it looked like it was going to be for a second there. Those guys can block the exit for a while, potentially, as I try to leave. Anyway, I guess I should talk a little bit about what's happening in the plot now. So we have gotten lost in the desert. We were picked up by a Republic sand ship. There is a Republic and there is an Empire. Guess which side's the good side. Standard logic there. No! Get out of there. Oh no.
I know
There's
exactly
no way
what's
to fish this guy out. You can't pass through either because you cannot scroll the camera. You cannot scroll the screen. You cannot move the camera while you select mash. That's the big limitation on it. So I have had to wait there for 2.5 minutes one time. That wasn't too bad there, but it's somehow the SNES just knows when you're on a marathon run. It just knows. Anyway,
wow, that's great.
The Republic ship is unfortunately run by a bunch of morons. The boy, Gammon, who's from some random backwater village, is assigned to taking care of the engines. The sprite, Nico, is assigned to the food and promptly eats it all. And Miss Sundere, Karen, is assigned to pampering the captain, and that goes about as well as you'd expect it to. So then the Empire attacks, and everyone immediately surrenders, except for us. So we will fight back, and we will fight back with magic. We could use the overcharge here, but there's a few reasons not to. For one thing, this is another one of those bosses that will give me a bunch of weapon experience for no reason. So the fact that I'm holding the axe gives me more weapon experience because I am currently at level 0 with the axe, and the higher your current weapon experience is, the less experience you get per kill. And there winds up being a bunch of like truncation that happens too that makes the problem even more exacerbated there. But in any case, this should be enough magic to take this guy out. He only has like 1200-ish HP. It's not too bad to deal with. Another reason to not attack him with the overcharge is that he will start just dashing across the screen if he does survive. And whenever he's dashing across the screen, it's really hard to keep up with him and get your AI to charge up for another attempt. Also, his dash tends to knock your characters unconscious, which also slows you down. So rather than dealing with any of that, we instead have magic. There's a lot of generic-looking guards here. Only one of them will get you out of the area there when you're left stranded in the desert. It's always the same one, though, so as long as you keep proper track of it, you can go there immediately, even though it is pretty confusing if you're playing casually, because after you've talked to 3, you're not sure which one is the last one anymore, because a lot of them have been walking around randomly off-screen. At this point, I am going to pick up a bunch of equipment. This will serve 2 purposes. One, it's going to be throwing away fodder for my equipment trashing glitch. I'm going to do that again. I did it once a long time ago, whenever I was at the beginning of the game and getting everything set up. But I will, at this point, do it again because I have brought myself down to 2 remaining walnuts on my first 2 item slots. I did a glitch in order to have 3 walnut slots in the first place, if you weren't here for the beginning. And I then did a glitch to give myself 0 of each of them. I'm going to repeat that glitch, and that glitch will bring me from 2 to 0, or if I make a mistake, it can bring me from 3 down to 1, which is a disaster, and I don't want that to happen ever. Oops, wrong menu. Another reason I need to do equipment at this point is just the fact that the enemies in the area I'm right about to go into are terrifying. The Howlers are cute little doggies, but they are also extremely powerful, and their attacks come out very quickly. This armor versus the armor I had before is the difference between my characters just kind of getting knocked backwards versus my characters getting slammed into the ground. So it's a pretty big difference, and I will have to focus a bit here, so Yagamoth, if you could take over.
Yes, indeed. The Ice Country is the other area I would consider to be pretty much the biggest hurdle in a speedrun. These Howlers are not only really fast, but their attack hitbox whenever they attack is huge, and it comes out pretty much immediately. So getting hit by these things is pretty much normal. Crow actually ended up using the petrification weapon here some more, just kind of to stun them in place so they, well, don't hit him all the time. So he just tries to hit and petrify them, which works most of the time. Also, little fun fact, elemental enchants for your weapons actually don't deal elemental damage. They are still neutral damage, although the damage is very slightly increased. Also, Boreal Phase coming up. Should I take over?
Go for it.
Alrighty, so Boreal Phase, pretty much in this game, the maximum damage you can deal with one number or that one swing is 999 minus whatever enemy defense. And this guy here will at least take 2 hits. And if Crow managed to get the sprite's weapon experience high enough, he will be able to have both the sprite and the boy overcharge their weapons at the same time, and hopefully both of them hit the Boreal Phase at more or less the same time, so he is going to instantly die rather than burrow down in the ground. However, this once again comes with the caveat that enemies in this game, well, they just have a chance to dodge your attacks at this point. And the game actually doesn't do a particularly good job at telling you whether you missed or whether you just straight up didn't hit their hitbox. Most of the time, you see casual people honestly kind of rightfully complain that the hitboxes in this game are a bit janky. But largely that is also because the game just doesn't tell you that, hey, your chance to hit was just not good enough with your damage roll, so try again. In this case, he managed to actually knock him down, so good job.
That was a pretty good example of how speedrunning this game goes. I made a very minor mistake there in not reacting quite fast enough to realizing that Boreal Phase spawned on one of the top portions. And because I was slightly slow, that meant my characters didn't get in position in time, which put me at the mercy of RNG. If everything had been executed correctly by me there, I could have gotten 2 attempts at the overcharge in Boreal Phase's first spawning location, but because I made a very small mistake at the beginning, I was at the mercy of RNG and it didn't work out. I wound up having to revive the sprite, which I actually did with a Royal Jam. Not very well documented feature in this game is that some healing actions can heal characters that are currently at 0 HP if you get them in time, and some can't. Royal Jam is one that can. That's why I bought that instead of either chocolate or candy whenever I was doing my initial shopping with Nico. So at this point, I am going to go out of Ice Country. I have gotten all that I needed here. All I wanted was just simple. Oh, the boy got caught. All I wanted here was Salamando. Salamando is the fire spirit, and the Scorpion army, once again, was trying to make money by using him to power a stove to make a little tropical paradise in the middle of Ice Country here. However, now that we have Salamando, we are not going to continue with the rest of this area. What's supposed to be next is, if you were paying really close attention, you may have noticed that we actually passed by a red-nosed reindeer. When I talked with them, I would have discovered that it was, in fact, Rudolph, who was complaining that Santa was in trouble. We are supposed to, at this point, be saving Christmas. We're not going to. Instead, we're going to do a whole lot of shenanigans in the Fire Palace, because the whole thing we're supposed to get from saving Christmas is the Fire Palace Mana Seed. But there's some weird mechanics there, and this whole segment is very strange and requires a lot of focus from me. So Yagamoth, it's all you.
Sure. Alrighty, Crow is going to, as mentioned, basically skip activating one of the orbs with Salamander spells in the basement where there's lava. And by skipping that, he is going to be able to actually seal the mana seed at the end. So that's kind of the main thing he is doing here, but he doesn't have to complete the Ice Palace. Either way, in order to skip that thing in the basement, he's going to equip everybody with a barrel, and then he's also going to heal everybody at the same time and have everybody, including his AI control characters, run up at the same time, straight up, which this little ramp here normally pushes you down faster than you can run up it, but because he has both barrels equipped and also is just holding up, for some reason, the game doesn't check that he is supposed to get pushed down, and he just slides straight up the quick exit of the castle, or, well, the Fire Palace. Then he has to activate some more orbs here in order to get through the rest of the temple. And I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you can probably see a lot of the shenanigans he does. At the end, what Crow is going to do when he comes up to the last orb that he's supposed to activate with Undini's spell Freeze in order to make the staircase appear to the final boss of this place, the Minotaur, he's actually going to cast Freeze twice. This will allow Crow to effectively carry over an event or an event flag into the next room where the Minotaur spawns. And normally what's supposed to happen when you enter Minotaur's room is you walk into the room and then torches appear at the entrance and at the exit and you are locked into the room. However, because he's going to use very precise timing to activate the entire freeze shenanigans with the sprite twice, he's going to effectively carry that torch event into the next room. The torches, or the chandeliers at the beginning and entrance are never going to spawn, and he can just run straight through the boss. He can't technically defeat the boss as he wanted to, but, he can just skip the Minotaur entirely, which is way faster. Also, fun fact, Minotaur does not have a hitbox, so he can run straight through him. And the entire purpose of this is sealing the Mana Seed of Fire, which unlocks the cannon travel to the next area. Nice.
Yep, basically went to plan. The Robin Foot that I did the whip post walk through walls with was a little uncooperative. I need him to start casting magic so he'll stay put while I get the boy to target him from a long enough distance to actually walk through walls as I attack the whip post. But he did a few shots before casting magic, but he did eventually cast magic, so we did get to at least do that glitch too. Whip posts in this game, you'll see me use to walk through walls in a variety of ways. Essentially, the core problem is that each time you attack a whip post, the game first allows you to walk through walls, then it decides whether to have you jump forward while you can walk through walls. And then if you are attacking the whip post from the right location with a whip, then you will do the jump over, but you get the brief moment of walking through walls anyway, which you can have an AI take advantage of. It's a lot easier to do on one controller, but on multiple controllers, but with one controller and a little bit of creative positioning, you can eventually convince your AI characters to meander over the wall that you're trying to pass. That trick done correctly saves like 7 seconds compared to just going the very slight detour over to use the whip post properly. But hey, it's a speed run. Every little bit counts. I need to make up for some of the marathon RNG I've been getting. Anyway, I'm going to pass through another guard here. I have 2 ways I can do it, and I think I have the better way this time. Yes, I do. So the guard is supposed to block the entrance to the sewers, but he won't trigger if you're on the exact correct pixel, which essentially you have a 50-50 chance of it, and you get 1 chance to check and then edit if you're wrong. Each frame that you move, if you are walking, oh wow, those slimes were actually the worst right there. I'm going to have to use another freeze. Yagamoth, take over. I'm having some trouble with the sewers.
Alrighty. Each time you just do regular walking in this game, you walk 2 pixels per frame, which effectively means that because of parity, you might not get exactly close up 0 pixels next to the wall, which means you cannot actually just walk past that guard. The alternative way of getting past that guard would just be doing the select trick again that we used back in Matango in order to just get by him if he does get activated. Also, the sewers area here is a really mean one. I usually choose the slightly slower path of just casting balloon on all these enemies because they are often very mean. Also, fun fact, if you have the boy being a snowman, which happens if you get hit by these blue slimes once in a while, and walk into this cutscene, you actually will softlock. It's kind of curious.
Yeah, it's not the only serious glitch that can happen, serious detrimental glitch that can happen with Snowman in that area. If you cure a character of the Snowman status while the numbers from the damage that they took that turned them into a Snowman are still up, the game will allow the character to move around while still looking like a snowman for a bit. In that period of time, if you wind up pushing an enemy, the pushing animation loads incorrectly, and the glitchy animation it does winds up deleting the character from your party permanently. Which is actually convenient if you want to do a single character challenge run, such as what Yagamoth here actually does on a somewhat regular basis on his stream. Then yeah, you can use that in order to ditch a character and have a true one character party. But if you're trying to complete this game in a normal, any sort of even vaguely normal capacity, you don't want to just have your character disappear. We call it the Snowman abduction glitch, and it was, for a while, it was one of those mysteries that we would occasionally hear people talk about, but we couldn't quite figure out how to reproduce. But eventually, we did. In any case, we have now traveled from the first area in the Empire that we were at, the South Town, and we traveled northward to, you guessed it, North Town. Great naming scheme in the Empire. Anyway, here in the North Town ruins, I should be able to get through everything here, provided I'm on point and not making any big mistakes here. This is an area where the strategy for getting through each room is kind of precise. As long as I stick with those strategies, everything should be fine. There's only one room where I will have to tussle with an imp a little bit, and the imp will potentially have something it can do. But for everything else, like that room right there, I scrolled the screen up immediately because doing so caused the two blue drops to do their attack animation in sync with each other. It allowed me to dash behind them afterwards safely. All of these rooms have a little trick like that. So just following the plan keeps everything good as far as that goes. And the sprite is actually short on MP right now. So I'm going to have to do this with physical attacks, which turned out to be okay. I wound up having to attack twice, but it was all right. I prefer to hit those guys with magic just to make sure everything's fine. But since the blue drops can dodge, the odds you'll hit both of them are kind of low. One of the blue drops did take 0 damage there, but there is a meaningful difference in this game between a miss and 0 damage. 0 damage strike does paralyze the enemy for a bit until the red numbers disappear. So at this point I have a large room coming up where I will walk to the right and then dash down. This will hopefully spawn a wizard eye in the lower left corner. It did. And then, oh no, I didn't get the wizard eye on the lower right corner. That's been happening to me a bunch lately, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong that makes that happen. But anyway, I'm trying to reduce the number of imps that show up in the cul-de-sac there that I pull my party through in order to press that button. I've made it through now, so we're all fine, but wound up being a little bit scarier than it should have been. In any case, we are now at the first of 2 bosses in a row that I'm going to obliterate just simply by casting magic. The incentive for using magic here is that the next boss is one that you really don't want to have to chase down with the overcharge. And so this will get me up towards level 4 freeze, which will take out Vampire very quickly. Another problem, of course, is that if your AI characters pick a large overcharge attack, like a whirlwind of some kind, they may take out both of the side eyes. And if both of the eyes on the side of the main one in the middle get taken out, The middle eye will go into this really annoying telekinesis mode. And you don't have a whole lot of control over your characters during that, so rather than dealing with any of that nonsense, I'm just blasting him with magic. Incidentally, if you do a glitchless playthrough of this game, a glitchless speedrun, the usual solution to most boss fights is just blasting them with magic. If you're playing this game casually, that's probably what you remember doing. There will, of course, be plenty of bosses where we do something weird, but the upcoming boss is another one I am just going to blast with magic. The next boss is infamous in the multiple controller run because that run does not practice magic at all, so using freeze against vampire is really not an option. So they have to try to hit vampire, and even with the full control over the overcharge that you get with having two controllers in your lap at once, even then, the fact that vampire spends most of the time hovering in the air, invulnerable to all physical damage, that just makes the whole affair really annoying. I've heard him called troll pyre, for example, or cat pyre, whenever that particular emote was especially popular. But since our chosen strategy is reasonably straightforward, that actually makes for this run a fairly decent time for donations. So let's just go ahead and do it.
All right, sounds good. Fast B78 says, I have so many good memories of this game from my childhood. Always happy to see it on the GDQ schedule. Good luck with the run, Crow. Kick Spiky Tiger's butt for all of us, and hope you get good vampire RNG. And we've got some more nickname explanations here. Yun gives $100 and says, it's my first time watching the event live and first time donating. If you did not know, gammon means kid in French. I find it pretty fun. Thanks for those who chose this name. Let's walk through the final boss with our feats. And I just wanted to give a little hype here. We're only $1,400 away from hitting that 100K. Let's go, everybody. Let's get some donations rolling in and try to hit this before midnight. Well, midnight where I am, at least. Blood Sausage 7 gives $200, saying, donating for the amazing commentary. This is all information I did not know I needed in my life. LA90 gives $10, saying, hey, Crow, good luck on your run. Love Secret of Mana and its soundtrack. And Drumboardist gives $5.
Hey!
They say, wait, did we stop doing haikus? Oh, that wounds my soul. This donation was a spur of the moment idea, and I was hoping I would nail it. But if we aren't going by the 575 digits, then I guess I'll just walk away. Puns are my Achilles heel, you see. Yagamoth and Crow have the Secret of Mana knowledge. Bring Flammy to heal. Thank you for that donation and all the donations coming in. We've got $25 from Shala. It says Secret of Mana. So excited for this run. And Finn gives 25, saying Secret of Mana is one of my favorite games and one of the first games I ever played with my dad. Thank you so much for playing it and for all the hope that GDQ brings every year.
Okay, so we have dispatched Vampire in a way that did not have to worry about nearly as much RNG as most categories of this game do. But now we have to do a amusing little trick that involves letting the boy die. If the boy is dead, he will follow the party around as a ghost. Ghost characters never have their weapons out and therefore can always pass through NPCs. You see where this is going? Well, as it turns out, the only thing that's normally forcing the player to meet with the Emperor and fall into a very, very obvious trap is the fact that there's a couple of guards blocking your ability from walking up the stairs to the left, and they're supposed to go up the stairs to the right. Well, with a ghost in my party and with a poor little SNES that has to try to figure out how to do an extremely complicated problem like pathing in real time, I can trick the SNES into thinking that the boy should, or Gammon, I suppose, should walk upward through the guard in order to try to meet up with the sprite, who at that point will be the party leader. So that's where we're going to go here. The boy is dead. The sprite will paralyze himself by using a walnut. You'll see me do stuff like this a lot of times later on in the run too, where I just use an item or cast a spell or something for the purpose of keeping an ally still while I set something else up. Unfortunately, that did not quite work. Usually if it doesn't quite work, it means that the sprite was not upward far enough. Go ahead and fix that. There we go. Now the boy has drifted upward, which means now that he has gone very slightly past the guards, I can revive him now, and now I have a character past the guard, and now I'm in the rest of the dungeon. So this is the Emperor's Castle. Because it's currently in truce mode, none of the enemies are active. Normally when I reach this portion of this area, there's supposed to be a whole lot of enemies blocking my path that slow things down a little bit. So the fact that I don't have to deal with that is nice. More importantly, the fact that I don't have to deal with the Metal Mantis boss whatsoever is very nice. So the upcoming fight that I will fight is against Geshtar again, who is once again going to be riding Mech Rider. Once again, that fight will arbitrarily award a bunch of weapon experience to the boy. So I put the Spike Knuckle on the boy so he can get some experience on that. After this is the last time I'm going to put any effort into getting weapon experience onto him. After this, I should be in pretty much shape for the final boss. So this boss here is weirdly weak to magic. The previous version of this boss actually has more magic defense than this guy does. I don't know why that's how it is, but it is, and I'm not complaining. So I will, so I need to do 3 trashes, or is it 4? I think it's 3. I'm planning ahead to the next segment. There's going to be a whole bunch of glitches coming up because I'm right about to get Flammy, which is my method for flying around the world. At that point, I can kind of do things in whatever order I like, thanks in part to the ability to walk through walls in a variety of strange and glorious ways. So before we do that, though, we will have to collect a whole bunch of stuff so that we can actually handle the final boss. The final set of bosses. There is the final Mana Beast fight, of course. But before the Mana Beast fight, the first thing we will have to do in the Mana Fortress once we get there is defeat Buffy. Buffy is the master vampire, and for a bit of context, at the time that Ted Woolsey translated this game, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, was out, but the TV show did not exist yet. In any case, Buffy is like Vampire, except he's way stronger. And my magic right now, the highest, most powerful spell that I can have the sprite cast on him would not inflict any damage. It would be completely shrugged off by his magic defense. So I need to get some way to defeat Buffy despite that. What am I going to do? I am going to head over to the gold tower, which is actually just to the right of where I am right now, but first I need to get the key, and there's a little bit of stuff I have to do in order to make that happen. So I will need to go through the gold tower in order to get the Lumina element, the Lumina spirit, which will give me the light element of magic. All of the light element spells will be cast by the girl here, Karen. And it includes one of the girl's very few offensive spells, Loosened Beam. It unfortunately costs 8 MP, which even with all the walnuts I have, it's kind of awkward to do with a small MP pool. So I am going to take a little bit of time out to increase my MP pool by giving myself a humongous amount of experience. I'll let Yagamoth talk about that once we get there, but first, I need one more tool before I can do that. I'm revisiting Gaia's Navel here for one last time. The Dwarf Elder, ever since I defeated Jabberwocky, was just waiting for me to show up here so that he could hand me the Midge Mallet. In short, the Midge Mallet allows me to decide who lives and who dies. The Midge Mallet ostensibly is there to toggle whether someone is currently shrunk down to a pygmy or not. Any pygmy characters cast magic more quickly, but they have 75% less defense power. So if I want to kill someone, I can pygmy them. And if a character has incoming damage or is about to be turned into a ghost, either one of those things can be interrupted by applying the Midge Mallet. So at this point, I need to do the wall glitch, which is pretty involved. So Yagamoth, if you could take over commentary for a bit here.
Alrighty, certainly. So, real quick, a wall is that green circle around enemies, and these knights in this area have the wall. What that allows them to do is to basically bounce back a certain amount of spells. And that is very useful for us in this case, because if you cast a spell on an enemy, it bounces back to your own character, and that character gets killed through your own spells bounce back. You get effectively the current amount of experience a character has received over the course of the entire game, modulo 65,535. In short, it's a tremendous amount of experience. Crow is going to set up in a very precise way, because while you can target an enemy that is just barely on the side of the screen, a wall bounce back actually involves your character needing to be close enough for the bounce back of the wall spell to take effect. So he killed off the lady now, and that gave the sprite and the boy a pretty huge chunk of experience. Now he's going to kill off the boy a number of times right here via the Midge Mallet, and this will allow him to effectively just stack a ton of experience on both the sprite and the lady. You will see here the boy get knocked down, and every time the boy gets knocked down, you can see the HP of the sprite and the lady increase by huge jumps. This will give Crow a much larger MP pool to work with, and as mentioned before, Lumina spells are going to be very expensive, and this is a very, very efficient and quick way to level the characters. Also, that was a very clean way of doing that. Nice.
Yeah, that went pretty well. There are a lot of very little things that can go wrong there, any one of which just ruins the whole thing and you have to reset the whole setup. So I'm pretty happy that that went as well as it did. We got also a high damage roll on the first attack against the boy. The first attack against the boy is not guaranteed to kill the boy, so if it doesn't, I wind up getting one fewer kills worth of experience on my characters, which is still fine. It still works out in the end. I need to double check if I actually need to do one more trash. I've actually lost track. I do, okay. If I trash too many things here, I actually wind up bringing myself into a state where I only have one Royal Jam left, I think it would be, and that would be unpleasant, so let's not do that. Next up, I'm going to go mountain climbing. Nico, the merchant cat, is actually present here on this mountain, and he describes mountain climbing in that way, of course. But rather than going up the mountain in the intended fashion, we're going to try to walk through walls and use whip posts, just generally speaking, not in the intended fashion. So I'm going to try to get the girl to just kind of wander around until eventually she's on one of the high ground areas. There we go. And now she'll gather the party using the whip post gather square. Next up, I'm going to have the girl pygmy herself. Normally, the only reason you can't use the whip post that you're right next to in order to go in kind of a perpendicular direction is simply the fact that the whip has a minimum attack range. You have to be at least a certain distance away before you hit. However, the Midge Mallet causes all of your attacks to be punches, so that no longer applies. Next, I'm going to walk through walls by talking to Jock, while the sprite is jumping with the sword/charge 1 attack animation. The game allows you to walk through walls as your party supposedly gathers on Jock, which the party does, but then because the sprite is in the middle of the sword/animation, he winds up overshooting Jock and winding up in the middle of Jock's trial, which allows us to go ahead and just do this now. Before I'm allowed to go here, I'm supposed to need to clear the Palace of Darkness, which we entered but never cleared. We're supposed to have already done the Gold Tower, which we will do eventually, but haven't yet. We're supposed to have gone through the Taznika plot cul-de-sac, as I call it. It's not this game's shining moment, honestly, but we get to skip it altogether, so that's great. We also will be skipping, we'll actually not be skipping the Moon Palace. We could, but Luna's magic is pretty awesome, so we'll go ahead and just do that. Coming up next is another case where I need to decide who lives and who dies using the Midge Mallet. The Midge Mallet will allow me to reduce my defense power, which is great, because in this fight here, any character whose doppelganger, any character who dies causes the corresponding doppelganger to also die. As I understand it, this is in fact the intended way for this fight to be cleared. Unfortunately, your armor is generally so good by the time you reach this phase of the game that these guys won't be able to take you out. Their attack power is just not good enough, even though their attack animations look like they're doing level 8 charge attacks or whatever. Anyway, we have now cleared Jock's trial. This unlocks the Tree Palace, so I could go there and start going through the process to get into the Mana Fortress, but as I mentioned, I do want a little bit more setup so I can beat Buffy. The alternative, by the way, to getting magic in order to defeat Buffy in a practical manner is to derp around in the Buffy fight for like 20 minutes or so. That's what it seems to take most of the time. So as long as all the stuff I do in order to blast Buffy in a matter of 2 minutes takes me less than 18 minutes to set up, it winds up being worth it. So that gives us some flexibility to go through an extra dungeon here. I will be going through the Gold Tower, which has not one but 2 bosses in it, both of which are actually pretty annoying, but here's hoping that we've run out of marathon RNG and we're going to start getting normal RNG instead. But it will take us a little bit to get to that boss, so it has been a while since I've passed things over to donation reading, so let's go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, you got it. Mulsi Bear donates $50, saying, "Greetings from the Lunarian Shuffle Discord. Good luck, Crow."
The Lunarian Shuffle, for anyone who does not know, is my randomizer for Final Fantasy IV. There's also a slightly more well-known randomizer for the game called Free Enterprise that's out there, which is also very good. But that is a open world randomizer, whereas Lunarian Shuffle is a full game randomizer, is what I call it. It focuses on very, very thoroughly randomizing what it is that your party has access to as it goes through the original plot of the game. So, yeah, he's a prominent member of that community, so glad to hear from him here. So now we're at Blue Spike. This is just like Spiky Tiger in a number of ways. His AI works very similarly. And there is actually, if you don't know what to do to avoid it, there is a risk of a soft lock here. this is one of the enemies that tries to grab your character and move it around. In this case, it tries to grab the character and move it to its mouth. And if it does so, while it is dying, what can happen is you get pulled above the usual camera bound box, which means that your AI characters are not allowed to form up on you as the boss fight ends. And if you find yourself in that state, then the game just soft locks because it can't ever finish up that. And I may actually get a... Sweet, okay. Actually got a quick kill there, oddly enough. I got unlucky with Blue Spike going to the high ground for a while, but once he came down, I landed my second attack on him, which put him low enough HP that he should have done a fake death animation. The second strike on him happened while he was chewing on the girl, so it took a while before he was going to notice that he had to do his fake death animation. So, by getting my last attack in first, I wound up avoiding that altogether. And wow, another acid storm. These guys don't usually cast magic, but they can, as you see, and if they do, well, it slows things down a bit. Anyway, here's Gorgon. Oh, okay. I destroyed a fairy walnut slot. Okay, I'm going to have to pick up more barrels later, which unfortunately is kind of a big detour. I made a mistake with the equipment trashing glitch, where one of the things that got hit up by the equipment trash was something that I had 3 of. So it saw that, and rather than passing on by, it instead went ahead and reduced the amount of that item I had by 2, so that I now have 1. So that happened instead of what I thought was happening, was me getting more barrels. So this boss here spends a lot of time just guarding, which is very annoying. I am going to try to stand in a place that's designed to avoid letting his power bomb attack if he does it. That's the name of a wrestling move, by the way. If he does that, he not only hurts the character that he flings while he does that, he also will simultaneously hurt everyone that's nearby and attempt to knock all people involved unconscious. So I don't want that to happen if I can avoid it. Yeah.
On top of all the guarding that Gorgon Bull is doing, he also kind of like pretty much every boss at this point has that chance to just dodge the attacks, and even though Crow clearly connects with his weapon, it is just going to not hit because the game decides so. Because misses are unfortunately not particularly well communicated.
Yeah. A little quirk to that fight is that if you have a long duration attack that comes out, one of the ones that involves the sword slashing for a long period of time, if you start slashing while he's blocking and then he drops his guard before your attack is done, unlike a lot of other defensive actions from enemies, in that case, you will actually score the hit once the guard is dropped. So that gives me a little bit more leeway on potentially connecting my attack, but whether RNG will agree with me is, of course, up to RNG to decide. I am going to pick me, the girl here. As I mentioned very briefly before, but haven't made any use of as of yet, Pygmeat characters cast magic much faster than non-Pygmeat characters do. It's like a third of a second advantage each time. So it is oftentimes worth the effort. So I have also sealed the seed. Doing so is quick, and it gives me the extra benefit of having more mana power, which will increase my damage output and also increase the maximum level I can get my magic up to. I will never have a spell higher than level 5 though, so any further it doesn't help on that front, but I still get the extra bonus damage on my high damage rolls, so that is worth it. Specifically, the high damage roll buff that you get is the square of the number of seeds you sealed. So at this point, I have 25 bonus damage off of that. Pretty soon I will have 36 because I am right about to do the Moon Palace. The Moon Palace is a very short dungeon. I strongly suspect that this was supposed to be much longer originally. I also think the Wind Palace was probably also supposed to be much more fleshed out at some point, but for anyone who doesn't know, the history of this game is that it originally was going to be like Squaresoft's flagship demonstration of just how awesome it is to have a CD for your storage on your... I can actually salvage that. Anyway, CD for your storage on your SNES game, thanks to the new peripheral that was being designed by Sony, which was being called the Nintendo PlayStation. Corporate drama ensued, and overall I would say Sony came out pretty well for what wound up happening afterward. But suffice it to say that this game wound up having to have portions of it like divided up. Like portions of the plans that they had got divided up into like Chrono Trigger and some other projects too. You can see some similarity in the design of Chrono and the design of Marl and the design of two of the characters we're looking at here. So at this point, we're just sealing the seed and we're going to back out the same way we came in. So this is probably another good time for some donations.
Yeah, I definitely have some for you. I've got one from Zap Rousdower that says, "Hey Crow." It says, "Hey Crow, it's Cam and Jeremy and Mike from your work. Hope that this donation gets read. Just want to say we appreciate the walkthrough. We think you're a step above the rest. You're definitely kicking it up a notch. Keep the final boss on its toes and keep on destroying this game. Let's go, Crow!"
Thanks.
And with some of that hype, we are just under $500 away from $100,000 raised in the first day. So let's get it up and get it in. We've got $25 from Anonymous saying 100K first day, get in. That's what we're trying to do, my friends. And I've got $25 from Aaron Scott. Says, "Loving the Secret of Mana block. Excellent commentary and gameplay for an excellent cause. Cheers to everyone involved. Thank you all." Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for everyone staying up with us during this amazing run for this amazing cause.
All right. So at this point, the game is going to get very weird. So do you remember how I was supposed to save Christmas before, but didn't? Well, the fact that I didn't means that this is still a dungeon. But because this is Santa's dungeon, if you die there, rather than actually game overing, the game kicks you out of the dungeon and says scram, and the boy is revived. Because I left the dungeon not by walking out as a normal person would be able to at any time that the dungeon was a dungeon, but I instead chose to take Flammy out, that means that that shield was never removed. At this point, I can achieve a watermelon ending to my game, and if I game over to this watermelon right here, I can pretend I'm playing Ico, and leave Sheiks, who you see here, he's about to turn into Iga Gropalon, who we call Watermelon for obvious reasons. He will still be in that room. This will enable us to do some serious shenanigans in a little bit. And once I can do these shenanigans, that will allow me to get into the final area, and this guy is not supposed to cast magic. He's supposed to obliterate us by landing on us. Please kill the Sprite. I don't know why the Sprite isn't taking damage. Please take damage, Sprite. All right, here we go. Now we're all dead. Now we're all dead. Okay, it took a little bit longer than usual, but eventually we get kicked out, and Santa says, scram! And now we are ready to move on to more shenanigans. So I am very low on cups of wishes. I am also at a bad number of walnuts that I can fix as I do shopping at a somewhat infamous location. So to the left here is the Frosty Forest Nico, where if you land here on this island, you will meet Nico, and if you save here, the game won't know where the save file is. The reason for this is that the game tries to save where it was you entered a room whenever you make a save file, but we didn't enter this room in a normal fashion. We instead landed here via Flammy. So if I make a save and then do LR select start in order to restart, I can just, start a new game because, that run had too many problems. So let's just do the whole thing over. Everyone seems to like this run, so let's just do it again. No, that's not what we're doing. Instead, at this point, at any time that I hold LR select start for about a second, I will be able to then load the file that I just created that doesn't know where it is, and the game will be inserted into that room. So here's a scene in the Pure Lands. If I hold LR select start and then load that file right now, I'm right here in this room in the Pure Lands. Same is true even of this scene right here. But my target is the waterfall room with the log from this initial cutscene right after the music changes. At that point, I'll be able to enter a room that, for whatever reason, if you enter there at an unusual time, not during the opening cutscene, the game will, as an emergency, I don't know why this code is in the game, but it is, and we'll make use of it. It will put everyone into cutscene mode, which is what we call it, where they become invisible. And then it boots them over to Potos Village, where we can escape from. So now the girl and the sprite immediately did their healing animation from being a ghost because I had just cured them just before. So they are visible, but the boy is not. Any invisible character in this game has a lot of weird properties, and I'm going to let Yagamoth take over here because it gets both weird and also technical at this point, so I would appreciate the help.
Alrighty, sure, let's go. Okay, so Crow is about to perform what we call the backwards Grand Palace. The goal is ultimately going to be pressing 2 switches in the room that you would normally enter previous to this one, if you go the normal way around, all the way through the underground and then through the Grand Palace in the end. And that will spawn... that will actually basically progress the Grand Palace to the state where he will be able to just complete it without visiting the rest of it. However, this is also one of those places where it is incredibly apparent that one controller has a clear disadvantage compared to multiples. Nice. Probe already managed to fiddle his way through to the staircase there, and now he has to make his way further backwards into this previous next area, so to speak. And he will try to use this Grey Wolf there, the Howler, in order to try and get one of his AI control cactus to just move across to the right side via hitting those rope poles and try to coerce his AI control cactus to run away from the wolf, hopefully, and up the staircase over there. But it's actually very difficult to try and get that right.
I have to try over again. And unfortunately, the boy just got hit up by a spell, so I'm going to have to wait for him to be cured of that before I can get out even.
That's amazing. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Oh, I see.
I'm going to cut in real quick and say we just passed $100,000. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you so much for all the generosity.
That's amazing. Alrighty. Okay, Crow is going to try and do this again. So basically, he's giving the lady there a fairy walnut to make her stand in place, and then he has her cast the spell just so she stands in place and doesn't move until he positions the invisible boy in a way where he can interact with the guy up there. And effectively, when you turn to the left with an invisible character, press B, you can interact with any entity on the screen, like that NPC that is not supposed to be there, and start an event as if you were talking to them. During these events, with an invisible character in your party, you can walk through walls effectively, and that allows you to, well, hopefully eventually get backward through this grand palace. However, these wolves are not exactly cooperating. They need to be in a relatively precise position, and they keep actually targeting the boy, who might actually die soon at this rate, because he has taken quite a bit of damage already.
Okay, I have the setup I need, I think. There we go. Okay, finally. So
Yes.
I need the wolf there to be kind of in the middle of that southern section there in order for this to work. And unfortunately, its behavior is random, so I don't get to fully control over whether it does that or not. And at this point, I need it to not cast Blaze Wall for a little bit while I get the girl down here. I think she's in, she is not. Okay, just a little bit more. There we go. I need to press this button 2 times. And because I press this button 2 times without pressing the above button, that means that now Sheik's is still up here instead of the Snapdragon that's supposed to be the mini boss in this section here. And ultimately, I will still be able to go to Hexus, which is the next boss after this. And in the end, doing all this skips having to do the Grand Palace, the subway section, or the Sunken Continent dungeons. So effectively, I've skipped 3 dungeons, plus the fact that I skipped the Grand Palace also means that I do not have to worry myself with clearing the Palace of Darkness all the way. I just entered there long enough to do the wall glitch, and then I left. So at this point, I'm going to deal with Hexus, who is a boss that things can go wrong with, so I'm going to go ahead and let Yagamoth talk about her. And I know he kind of likes this boss too, so go for it.
Sure. Alrighty. Hexus has a good chunk of magic resistance, so usually the quicker way, but not necessarily safer, is to try and defeat her by using, well, physical attacks. In this case, Crow is going to probably be in a little bit of trouble because I just realized, and you probably did too, that you don't have any barrels. So that's going to be interesting.
I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work out, but I'll make it work. If worst case scenario, I could actually spam freeze. That will work. It takes a while, but I may also be able to get away with just using an extensive amount of Lucid Barrier, which I want to train up anyway, so it's not a huge disaster on that front. And I'm going to cast 1 freeze just in case she has done the thing where she's invincible for no good reason.
Yeah. Alrighty. So basically, Hexus has a number of things she can do. One of the things you don't want her to do in a speedrun like this is change form. If you stand relative to her far to the top left, straight top, or top right, she will actually transform into her water, earth, or fire forms, where she will just cast the corresponding spells. Crow actually wants her to keep her in her basic form, which largely casts only this spell, as well as physical attack spells, abilities, whatever you want to call them, and these can be denied via the use of Lucid Barrier. Sometimes Hexus can completely bug out and you can no longer hit her with melee physical attacks, which is very weird, and we kind of have to throw a spell at her before she, well, is vulnerable again to these. We don't really know why that happens or how exactly it happens, it just does happen, and yeah, it's going to be relatively difficult to hit her. On top of that, there's sometimes an instance where enemies or bosses just cast spells, and while they're casting spells, they are completely invulnerable as well. So that means on top of the already like 30% chance for them to dodge physical attacks, they will also have an additional chance to just completely avoid your attacks because they are immune by spell casting, and then on top of that, you might just get unlucky and the AI control characters decide to whiff their attacks completely. It's basically quite a bit of a mess. So yeah, but Hexus is currently hittable, and the lady is a little bit of a pickle. So worst case scenario, at this point here, Crow also does have the ability to safe warp back into this room. This would be a valid solution for this, although it is not a terribly efficient one, unfortunately. But, well, let's see and hope that this is going to work out in Crow's favor here.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do a shopping trip after this to substitute for the shopping trip I was supposed to do before this, given the mistake I made earlier that left me without as many barrels as I needed. And unfortunately, the boy has at this point wandered too far downward and is unlikely to score any hits because it's the thin part of the tail that does all the damage from Hexus. So yeah. Okay, I will try one more overcharge off of the sprite. If this does not wind up working out, I am next going to... Okay, I did land that hit. I'm going to go right ahead now and have the sprite just magic his way to victory here. This is a very old strategy. Once upon a time, I actually did this. I won't do good damage with freeze until it's level 5, and unfortunately it's going to take a while to get there. But this will at least bail us out of this particular disaster.
Yeah,
Oh,
unfortunately I forgot to remind you about the barrels because I forgot that you need one for Hexus. So normally he would want to have one barrel to just tank Hexus and have the lady stay in front while both the sprite and the boy get free reign on attacking her, because the barrel in Hexus basic form is literally going to deny all damage. But yeah, it's just gonna be free spam here. For anybody who may not know how the free spam even works, basically you control a character that is not the sprite in this case, which allows you to use your partner's menu with the X button to, well, cast the spells quicker than you would normally are supposed to. And this allows you to just change spells together again and again and again. All the damage adds up to a maximum of 999 damage. Any damage above 999 is actually lost, so you want to stop casting at some point in order to let the damage display before you continue as well. I feel like that's probably worth mentioning too.
Oh, that was going to be enough.
Yeah, I think you only hit 2, that means she has like 300, 400 HP left, I think. Also, one of the overcharges was unfortunately a low damage roll, so that didn't help. It might actually be a bit more left over. On the bright side, if you somehow can't cast Lumina, Freeze is going to be leveled up now.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. In any case, Hexus is down. Crisis averted. We can continue the run. Sorry about that one, guys. That is how a chain reaction can happen in this run, where one mistake leads to another, and in any case, at this point, I should be able to continue.
Yeah,
I will have to buy some more stuff later to make up for the somewhat shortage of resources I have now, but it'll be okay. So for this next boss, this boss's AI has a whole lot of shortcomings. He is going to try to get onto the same horizontal plane as the rest of us, and then charge horizontally. However, because he is floating, but we are not, if we just take up shop at the bottom of the screen here, he will never succeed in getting on the same horizontal plane as us. And this will allow us then to just do whatever we want, basically. And he won't be able to hit us with his physical attack. One thing he will be able to attempt to hit us with, though, is Disruptor Wave, or at least he should be able to, except he will never use it, because he will only use it if he has the speed up buff, which he won't get, because before trying to speed himself up, he first uses the wall spell, which reflects the speed up spell that he tries to enchant himself with. So yeah, this boss's AI fails on many levels. Unfortunately, though, he does have a humongous HP pool, so taking him out will still take a fairly long period of time. Thus far, this RNG is making up for some of the time we lost to Hexus just a little bit ago. So that feels good. We are going to, at this point, need to get the characters on the opposite side. The AIs are much worse at doing the proper charge attack, and will instead kind of freak out and attack early if Mech Rider is moving towards them rather than away. So each time Mech Rider reaches the edge of the screen, I go ahead and form up the rest of the party on the far side. There's a few ways I can do it, depending on the current position of everyone. I'll choose either a spell or I'll dash into the wall in order to bring everyone over. But one way or the other, I eventually deal enough overcharge hits that Geshard gets taken out. It has been a long time since I've explained the overcharge, so quick TLDR version. I get the game confused as to whether I'm on charge level 2 or charge level 1. And in the end, it thinks I'm at a current charge level that is higher than the maximum it's trying to go to. When the current is bigger than the maximum, the coding breaks, gives me another charge level every few frames. So that allows me to do redonkulously large amounts of damage, compared to the normal maximum, which is charge level 8. Doing like, charge level 40, 60, something like that. So coming up next, before I go to the Mana Fortress, I'm first going to make a detour to Nico, and I'm going to buy some stuff so I'm not in quite so much danger. So
You could just land on the Sunken Fortress.
that Nico does not actually sell. I don't think it sells royal jams. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it definitely does not sell barrels. The only place that sells barrels is the Nico list that you see here.
But yeah, this one guaranteed does sell barrels.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be useful. Barrels basically allow you to just... Well, they are, at this point, just mostly a safety rather than a necessary tool. But safety is very important in the place where we are going. Or, well, Crow is going, I suppose. I'm just watching.
I didn't mean to actually sleep, but I did mean to save, so...
Yep, saving is probably good.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to skip a portion that we are now supposed to do. Kind of like we skipped the previous portions.
Yeah, so we're going to skip Pure Lands. We'll get to that in a bit. Before we do that, though, we have time for like 2 donations, so go for it.
You got it. We've got a bunch of hype coming in from hitting 100K. Dryad43 gives $25 saying 100K hype. Anonymous gives $25 saying 100K first day. Also worth it to get Ori and Will of the Wisps as a bonus game. Thank you so much for those donations and all the other ones that are coming in.
One more?
Sure, we got Dude Cheetos, who gave $500 and said, "This should get us over 100K. Been watching since I couldn't donate, so glad I can pay back years of just watching."
All right. So next up, I need to get into the Mana Fortress. You're supposed to do the Pure Lands first. Pure Lands has a lot of important plot stuff going on, including the Mana Tree, which is there, which there's some importance of the Mana Tree relative to the boy, relative to Gammon, but we're not going to see any of that. So instead, we are going to once again abuse the power of Whip Post. So first I'm going to do a glitch called weapon grafting. What I'm going to do here is I have the boy equip the boomerang, and I want to use the boomerang's charge attack animation, but I don't actually have weapon experience with the boomerang. So I instead pause. Oh, that is actually going to undo the weapon graft. That's unfortunate. Yep, I have to set that up again. So, equip the boomerang, get numbers of any sort to show up on the boy. While those numbers are showing up, you have another character tell that character to equip a different weapon. And now I actually have a sword equipped, even though it looks like the boomerang. This means I can do the boomerang's attack animation, which happens to be the level 2 charge attack animation, happens to be the only attack which has the correct timing and the correct distance that I can hit that whip post after I have summoned Flammy. And because I've done that, that means that now whenever I land here, I have stacked that event on top of what was supposed to happen here, where the game was supposed to check whether we had done the Pure Lands or not, and because we haven't, it's supposed to have a barrier around this place. But instead, that's not going to happen, and I'm now in the final dungeon, if the game will let me. Come on, girl. There we go. Now we're in the final dungeon. So a lot of the enemies here are specific to this dungeon. Those enemies that are very scary, and I am going to respect them. For example, these tsunamis here are terrifying, and I am going to go ahead and paralyze them with a spell that you would not normally see in this run. I chose that spell just because it has a long animation. Unfortunately, it wound up taking a while anyway. The preference is if those tsunamis don't spawn, but unfortunately, because the motion of enemies is random, that also means that the list of enemies that spawn as other enemies despawn in time to make room for new ones winds up being random also. So unfortunately, I got tsunamis there, and I got through safely, so that's good. But yeah, if you let those guys rev up and start actually casting spells, they don't stop casting spells until multiple party members are dead. At this point, I don't quite have the amount of armor that I quote-unquote should for this section of the game. I'm supposed to have gone to a different Nico than the one that I visited in order to pick up some really awesome but also really expensive armor there. I didn't, but I do at least have the Gold City armor, which is enough that I should survive one hit from even the strongest enemies here. Only one, though. Without dying, I mean. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and Pygmead the girl. Once again, Pygmead characters cast magic faster than non-Pygmead ones do, and this will allow me to blast this boss with magic. And because my maximum MP meets or exceeds 32 MP, that means I'll be able to do 4 casts per set. Not for this first set, though, because I was starting a little bit short. But we will be good to go at this point. And just blasting Buffy with magic, and then eventually using the equipment trashing glitch, which I will do now after checking that I'm in a good shape to do so. I am. This is going to go on like this for a little while, so we probably have time for a donation or two.
Absolutely. Mark in Austin donates $33.60. Says Secret of Mana, the glitch that keeps on glitching. Way to go, Crow. Good luck demonstrating the elusive 1 player 2 feet category. We've also got Tomothy Cruz with $25. Says, cheers to Crow. Thank you, Oki Shop, for showing me GDQ.
Mark in Austin there happens to be my brother, so thanks very much for that. And yes, I in fact call this game the glitch that keeps on glitching. The joke in this is that any attempt to play this game in a glitchless category winds up becoming a discovery opportunity for more glitches because we keep encountering new stuff. The weapon graft there, for example, was found. I was there at the time. It was found by Yagamoth at the Spiky Tiger fight. He was trying to do that fight glitchless and wound up just having one weapon that looked like a different weapon. And that's just how it was. Anyway.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, we've gotten past Buffy here. Since we had the preparation we needed, he wasn't so bad. If I had gone in here without Lumina, that would have been about a 20-minute fight because he just does not cooperate for the overcharge glitch at all.
Imagine how it was. Sorry, imagine how it was for how he had to deal with Hexus, just a lot worse.
Yeah, imagine if Hexus jumped around while also doing all those brutal attacks. And if I couldn't fall back on magic, because that would be the core problem. Freeze, at my current amount of mana power, Freeze literally cannot deal damage to Hexus, and that's the big issue. Not Hexus, Buffy. So we're now about to get into a boss fight that we will use Overcharge against. Not because it's easy, but because we have to. And we can, it just involves a very tricky setup. So take it away, Yagamoth, while I try to do this one, right?
Alrighty, good luck. So, what Crow is going to try and do is he's going to try and achieve three things at the same time with his position. First of all, Dread Slime will always move to the cactus that is the furthest away from his center. So that's also the cactus that Dread Slime is always targeting. So Crow is currently trying to keep the boy and the sprite in specific positions, which allows him to keep them in these positions so they don't move away. Further, he wants the lady to be not the furthest away from the center so she never gets hit by a acid rain spell. On top of that, in order to use overcharge attacks, you have to have your AI control cactus engaged in combat, which means they cannot be too far away from the center, but also simultaneously you need to be close enough to start charging their attack, but also far enough away so they will not immediately unleash their attack without waiting first. And getting this set up properly is very tricky because Dread Slime just keeps casting spells. Your AI really does not want to cooperate on where they get positioned, so this might just take a little bit to set up here.
Okay, on top of that, I think I've gotten myself covered now. We'll see.
Okay, nice. Good luck. On top of that, Red Slime does like to just spam spells, and Red Slime alongside the Mana Beast are the two bosses that never run out of MP. As part of their AI routine, they will just completely replenish their MP back to full, so he can effectively cast Acid Rain forever. We also, Crow actually skipped getting Dryad spells, which would allow him to bounce back spells, as in Acid Rain in this case. So it would be very nice to be able to just have the lady cast Wall on herself, so she just bounces back the Acid Rain in case she gets targeted. But he kind of has to work with the tools he currently has. I think the lady's actually further away from the center than the boy.
The girl slipped out, unfortunately, so that means that the sprite is now too far away to be aggroed, which means I'll have to use just the boy. This is safe now because the previous time that the sprite was not in the right position, I had to abort and try the whole thing again because in the position that the sprite was. He was going to drag the red slime into a position that potentially the boy might no longer have been aggroed himself, and then I have no further way to deal damage. No spell. Because this guy is weak against Shade and has absurdly high magic defense, and I never picked up Shade. No spell I have will inflict any damage on him. I must overcharge or nothing. There is no substitute. So, at this point, the boy will be able to take this on. It's going to take a little while. I will try to maximize the effectiveness of the boy by using Moon Energy, which will also give me a little bit of progress towards defeating the final boss in as fast a fashion as I can, because Moon Energy gives you free critical hits. It's 1 plus the current level of the spell is the number of free critical hits you get. There's no duration on the spell, it just lasts however long it lasts. So, Sprite, I think that's in time. And 1 or 2 more hits will take out Dread Slime. Unlike Lime Slime, who we were supposed to fight before but didn't, Dread Slime actually gets larger with each hit, and anytime a character is at all in Dread Slime's goo, that character cannot move towards the middle. So that's a big part of why it's hard to get everyone into the position you need them to be in. You can move away, but you can't move towards. So we made it eventually.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid backup. That was decently fast.
All right, so we're now in the final dungeon section of the game. All of the hardest enemies in the game, or at least the strongest ones anyway, happen to be here. The werewolves here are very strong, but most of the time they just cast magic whenever you approach them at first, so that makes them much less scary than they quote-unquote should be. And you know what? Let's pretend this is the previous game from the marathon. Let's do some Metal Gear Mana, because I did wind up spawning that fiend head. I thought I gave the girl a... Oh, right, she was poisoned. Poison actually prevents a character from becoming barreled, weirdly enough. Anyway, as long as your character is in a barrel, the enemies ignore their presence. It also, you know, makes you invulnerable to physical attacks, as we've been using them for before. But the fact that enemies ignore barreled characters is kind of amusing. Oh, girl, get over here. Okay. Unfortunately, wearing a barrel does not make the AI any smarter.
Nope, the enemies just ignore you, because that's what they do. They can't see barrels. Barrels are... they're not there.
Unfortunately, this does not apply, or fortunately, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Bosses are immune to the stealth part of barrels. They will acknowledge that your characters are, in fact, characters. Since magic will get past barrels, that does mean that against bosses that cast magic, barrels won't make you invincible. But this bridge here is actually the main reason I wanted to keep the barrels on for so long rather than taking them off earlier. That fiend head there is basically impossible to despawn, and so long as it's on the bridge, running past is not really safe unless you're at full HP, which at that point I wasn't going to be. So anyway, we have now made it to the second to final boss. So I'll need to wait for the MP, and now it's soon going to be time for Thanatos. But first there's a cutscene, which is a great time for donations.
All right, you got it. We've got a donation from Supa Shadow Nova for $25. It says, "My dad loves Secret of Mana. This is for him." Thank you so much for that. We've got Blue Cheetah with $500. It says, "Something must be afoot if we only need to defeat the final boss." Those puns making a comeback. And we've got Angry Toast with $200. says, Secret of Mana was one of my favorite games from the SNES era. I spent countless hours in the Mana Fortress and cutting through those green crystals hunting for those last weapon orbs. It blows my mind to see how fast this is being done. Cheers on the run. Thank you so much for your donations. Keep them on coming in.
Okay, so we are about to start the fight. The fight will look a lot like the Buffy fight because I'm going to be using Lucent Beam, which happens to be his weakness, and I happen to have leveled it up, so may as well keep going. Also, leveling up Lumina up to level 5 will allow the Lightsaber spell to be that much more powerful for the boss coming up after this, which will be a nice little extra bonus on that. So, honestly, you can go ahead and do a few more donations at this point.
No problem. I've got them. Dr. Calexo with $15 says, I've played Secret of Mana countless times with my cousin and will be doing it again as soon as quarantine is finally over. Always love to see it broken in half by speedruns. Anonymous gives $30 saying Secret of Mana was one of my favorite games growing up and Crow does some of the best speedrun commentary I've heard. Good luck on the run.
Thank you.
And Quasar29 says, from the soft yet electric color scheme to the world-class soundtrack, Square was putting in their games in the 90s. Secret of Mana remains one of the all-time greats. Thanks and keep up the awesome runs. And Anonymous gives $50. Says, first donation this week, definitely not the last. Secret of Mana was the clear choice for the day one game I wanted to donate during. Looking forward to an amazing week. And we're looking forward to all of you anonymous and not anonymous ones hanging out with us all week long. Pyro gives $100. Says, here's to defeating the final boss in this great Secret of Mana run and all the doggos in the world. A big thanks to all the staff and runners for this amazing event in these tough times. Let's keep those dog nations going. Game Watcher donates $10 saying, I have fond memories of spending hours watching my brother play Banjo-Kazooie. I still love that game and enjoy watching speedruns of it. That's why I'm hoping to win the Banjo-Kazooie plush. And I just want to use that to remind you all your donations go to winning prizes. Who doesn't want to win prizes? So make sure you're getting those donations in. And Sent, I'm sure, will be in here soon to show you what those prizes are.
Okay, it's time for me to transition the webcam to pointing to the controller I'm going to be using for the final boss. So take it away, Yagamoth.
Alrighty, for the final boss coming up, there's going to be a few things to note. One, in case you may have only recently tuned in, Crow actually did defeat a lot of enemies in previous sections with certain weapons in order to level up the secondary weapons. There's a hidden mechanic a lot of people just don't know about, since where the mana sword is going to be more powerful, the higher level your secondary weapons level is. And it just so happens that he leveled up his partial weapons to the point where the boy will actually get a ridiculously high attack power boost with just regular sword swings. In other categories, you see still using overcharge in order to break through the mana beast's physical defense. However, Crow is going to be able to just swing away, and if everything goes right, he will be able to also just knock down the mana beast in one cycle, although that is rather difficult to do, and especially with his feet, as you can see now. So Crow is now using an SNES Advantage controller, which is kind of like an arcade stick thingy, and this swing will allow him to just play with his feet more efficiently. He still needs to go through the cutscenes and such, but I think he's about to be ready. So the first thing to note, Crow is going to activate the Mana Sword while transitioning to the next screen. So let me back off a little bit. So normally the way you unlock the Mana Sword is by giving the boy the sword and casting both Triad spells on the boy. Now, Triad is actually the spell element that we did not pick up because we skipped it, but conveniently enough, because it unlocks the mana spells after you defeat Thanatos or the Dark Lich just now, you actually do acquire all the spells from the thing here. So Crow is about to cast a bunch of spells onto the boy, which allows him to just unlock the mana sword, but while unlocking the mana sword, he, well, tried to go into the next screen in order to completely avoid this, like, 20-second cutscene here. However, it requires movement precise enough, but sometimes that's a bit tricky, I would suppose, with feet.
Yeah,
not a big time
part
loss.
I missed was getting the select button pressed because unfortunately select button is like way over compared to the controller. So I succeeded in trying to get the sprite to move left, but then oops.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Alrighty. Okay, so he also just unlocked the mana sword twice in a row because during the first cutscene, infamously, you actually just usually lose the mana sword charge. That's part of the reason why you kind of want to skip that too. So you just have to unlock the mana sword twice in a row if you have never leveled up Triad spells, since one of the spells from either the sprite or the lady, if it goes like a low damage roll or, well, a low luck roll, whatever you want to call it, effectively the spell is not going to last long enough, so it would last through the cutscene. So, however, Crow also casted a elemental spell, in this case Lumina Saber on this sword, which actually makes this mana sword infinite. And as long as Crow does not run out of attack charges with the Lumina spell, he will actually keep the mana sword and its corresponding like power boosting ability. He will continuously try to keep Lunar Boost as well as Lunar Energy up on the boy in order to power him up. Lunar Boost gives the boy 25% more attack power, so that is going to contribute to him dealing effectively maximum damage per swing. On top of that, Lunar Energy is going to allow the boy to deal critical damage. Critical damage is effectively twice damage, on top of also bypassing enemy armor. The Mana Beast has 450 defense, which means that it will actually usually deal, well, be strong enough in order to completely negate any regular attacks. However, the Mana Sword being powered up as it is right now, he will be able to just slash through that defense quite easily. Further, he just Lucid Barrier to prevent damage from the first attack from the Mana Beast coming in there, the Fire World. And then also, the way he prevented the damage from the Fireball was actually just casting the Lucid Barrier at the appropriate timing, which is very important to note here, because it was the spell animation that prevented the boost from occurring. However, it also kind of... what's the word? The animation basically prevented the damage from occurring because he was in the middle of animation and it just cancelled out the damage from the world. But the Lunar Barrier then subsequently provided a defense against the next area. Also, Acid Rain reduces the enemy's defense by 20% additionally on top of that. So if everything went well and the section or setup earlier went well sufficiently to Crow's desire, he should be able to effectively deal max damage here with regular swings. Whenever the Mana Beast casts Lucent Beam, it is going to be briefly invulnerable, so he will not be able to cast or dish out any more damage throughout the event here. So yeah, not entirely sure how much magic power you ended up getting through your secondary weapons, but that's a bit less damage than we would hope for, I think.
I believe that the mana magic buff is not currently active. I can try to reset it later, but I have to do it in between cycles. Suffice it to say, one cycle is definitely dead, so I will have to deal with what I've got.
Yeah, I do think that there's definitely something missing there. Worth noting that the Mana Sword is actually just a regular sword, however, more or less the final upgrade, if you will. Normally, you cannot upgrade the sword to level 9 or 8. Either way, there's one less sword forge you can normally do, and that sword normally gets unlocked by, well, casting the mana spells in the final boss fight here. So let's hope that this is going to get unlocked. It might actually be because you transitioned before Lumina took hold there. That is a possibility.
Yeah. The first thing that made me a little worried something was not right was that I didn't actually have the correct color scheme on the sword. Usually, if that happens, whatever caused that to happen will also remove the mana map buff. In any case, we should be in good shape now. I should be doing 999 strikes with this cycle, or actually a little bit less because I won't have acid anymore. That should have been off by now. But apart from that, we should be in good shape. Yeah, it's a lot better.
Round 2. Right.
Something like that.
Okay. Yeah, this is the power of the mana boost. So there's methods of glitching the mana sword into or onto your character early that I'm sure a lot of you people have tried out before yourself. There's that kind of frost for a sneaker way that you can get that early. And this is the power of the unlocked mana sword you can see by having secondary weapons leveled up as well. This is the difference, so to speak. Previously he was doing just about 200 and those additional attack power boosts. Even though he did have the mana sword previously as well, he's just kind of going to add a lot of damage on top of that. So that definitely helps a lot. So as long as he doesn't get, well, I think it might have run out actually again.
Yeah, I think I actually ran out of lightsaber charges. So yeah.
No, I think the lightsaber was actually selected.
Yeah, I know what I did. I brought up the weapon menu, paused the game to think about what the boy's supposed to have.
Right.
That's a bit of an annoying stipulation on the glitch. One thing that makes this game interesting as a speedrun, although difficult, is the fact that in this game, a lot of the glitches have a lot of limitations associated with them. In this case, the infinite mana sword glitch that I used in order to have the mana sword last as long as the lightsaber buff lasts. That unfortunately has a stipulation that anytime the game checks how much strength or other stats the boy should have, that check will also remove the mana magic buff. So we'll have to go once more onto the breach here. And this third cycle, I think this one's going to be the charm here. I think third time's the charm on this one, and I believe we will, at this point, be able to finally defeat this boss properly. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go.
A lot of
Full
things to
damage
keep
again.
in mind. Yeah, that's pretty good damage, to say the least. So the Mana Beast has 9,990 HP, so in order to defeat it, that's how much damage you have to deal, which is, I think, almost twice as much as the previous boss, and that's, to say the least, a lot of damage you have to dish out over the course of the combat here. And wow, how is the sprite not closer to the boss than the lady?
I'm not
That's
sure,
impressive.
but sometimes you just have to deal with what the game gets you. But there we are. Finally goes down. We have defeated the Mana Beast. And time will be whenever the party joins together very soon here. And time, right there.
GG.
Whew, that was a bit of a adventure there. Yeah, a few things didn't go necessarily the way I wanted them to. But if you keep a level head You have enough glitches at your disposal here. If you understand how they work, you can eventually navigate to a victory, although it may not necessarily be the fastest one I could have had. We still got there. So, yeah, thanks for donating to let me show off the 1 player 2 feet speed run aspect of this. Definitely a lot of fun to put together. So the credits here, I'm sure we're probably not going to sit around for them. It is like 7-8 minutes long, something like that. However, at the end of the credits, the game will randomly assign one of 3 moon phases to go with the randomly generated star field. I will try to relay to chat through someone who actually has the ability to talk in that. I will relay which moon phase was selected. The 3 options are crescent, waxing gibbous 3/4 moon, or full moon. So from there, I hope everyone enjoyed their stay. I do try to provide something close to this level of commentary at everything that I do stream. I am planning on trying to learn the Trials of Mana remake, the glitchless speedrun for that. So if anyone here would like to join in for that, that would be great. I'll be starting that next week, most likely. I also do make a game randomizer for Final Fantasy IV and have a couple of other related projects in mind. Yagamoth, anything you'd like to say here?
Well, not a whole lot aside from thank you for running. And once again, I would like to reiterate, choosing to play this game with 1 controller is the hard mode as opposed to 2. It's a bit counterintuitive, but this is most definitely by far the more difficult category. So thank you for running this.
And thanks to Games Done Quick for putting on this event and raising money for a charity that is most certainly relevant to the current events right now. So, yeah, signing off for now. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Crow, for that wonderful run. Thanks to Yagamoth for the commentary and that wonderful 2 feet, 1 controller thing. I've never seen anything like that on GDQ or maybe ever before. So thank you so much. Let's get lots of love. And if you got feed emotes, now's the time to use them. Just track them down, share everybody's. Thanks a bunch. We had a lot of donations in here. I'll read a few for you. The Ice Burner sends $25 over saying, "Hey, Yaga, nice to catch you at GDQ. This goes to your choice. Thank you to all those making this happen. Always a highlight of my year." And I've got $25 from Brittle Knee. It says, "We're so proud of you, THEKyleThomas. As the most Kyle of all Thomases, you inspire us all. Love, BK, and the Hive." That is very sweet, Brittle Knee. Thank you so much for that donation. And thank you to everybody donating during this wonderful run. I'm going to sign off now. Please treat each other with love and kindness. We're going to send it on over to a Twitch ad. And after that, an Eternal Enigma will be hosting. So stick around and let's do this overnight thing the right way. Thank you all very much. Let's roll that Twitch ad.
Well, hello, Games Done Quick. Welcome, everybody. This is Summer Games Done Quick 2020 online, powered by Twitch. I am an eternal enigma. I will be your host for the next few runs. Welcome on in. Good to have you all here to SGDQ 2020 online. Is that, by the way, is that a hype train I see in the chat right now? Could it be? I might be a little familiar with those. Can we keep that train running real quick while we get to the next run? Coming up next, we're getting set up for our next run here. That is going to be Firemen with Millennium Racer Amateur Championship on the PC. But as we get going here, just as I always do when we get on this event, I always like to remind you what exactly we're here for. We are here for Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. Tell you a little bit about them. Doctors Without Borders is an international medical humanitarian aid organization that works in over 70 countries around the world, providing life-saving medical humanitarian care and speaking out about what they see in those areas. Their work aids people based solely on need, irrespective of race, religion, gender, or political affiliation. MSF is committed to safeguarding their patients' right to autonomy, confidentiality, and informed consent. 90% of their staff is national, meaning they live locally and are from the country they work in. MSF relies mainly on the generosity of individual donors, with over 90% of MSF's income coming from private donors giving small amounts. Again, thank you for joining us. It is an honor to be back here. This is my 7th GDQ, and I'm here to do what I need to do, and that is read your donations while we're getting ready for our next run here. So let's just jump right on in. We've got a $500 donation from Beefy Tacos, who says, 10 years of GDQ, we have come so far. Can we get some hearts in the chat for this awesome event? I like that. Hearts during a hype train. I think they go together quite well. Thank you very much for the $500, Beefy Tacos. And let's see what we have here. We have a $100 donation from Sia Rennie, who says, I'm glad GDQ is still happening. It's very needed right now, both for the cause and for a distraction. Shout out to everyone behind the scenes, keeping everything running smoothly. As an Ori speedrunner, I had to donate for the Ori incentive, so let's get it done. Thank you for the $100. All right, so we are going to go to a ad real quick, and we'll be right back.
There is a world that exists beyond our own, hidden on the edge of shadows. To liberate this realm, we must become the warrior of darkness.
All right, and we are back. Still getting set up for our next run here. Of course, we're looking forward to Firemen with Millennium Racer. We're still getting set up that. We still got a few more donations. A few more donations came in for Secret of Mana that we want to hit while we're still getting set up. We had a $200 donation from Mighty Arathalos, who says, Secret of Mana was one of my most favorite games as a child and started my love for RPGs in general. Wish I knew how to have 24 walnuts as a kid. Always loved seeing this game in GDQ. Also, an incentive for Ori. Let's make sure we crush that goal. That will be the second night I have to mess up my sleep schedule. Greetings from Germany. I can relate with a messed up sleep schedule. Thank you for the $200. We have a $50 donation from Schlazer, who says, thank you, tech and crew who make this possible. COVID has caused a lot of pain and uncertainty in the world, and working through already difficult times to do an all-virtual GDQ is such a feat of kindness. You are all amazing. Had to donate during Secret of Mana, some of the best video game music around. Go get 'em, Crow. And Crow got him. What an amazing run again. Fantastic. That hype train's getting close to completing level 3. We're getting close, 35%. I love seeing the train going on GDQ chat. Let's see if we can get level 5. How about level 5? We have a $20 donation from Jason239 who says, I had to donate during my all-time favorite game, Secret of Mana. I have so many great memories of playing this game together with my sister and dad while growing up. Thanks for all the great runs for a great cause. And thank you for the donation. We have a $50 donation from Ziggity Zach who says, I guess the real secret of Mana were the friends we made along the way. Perhaps, perhaps. We have a $20 donation from Legendary Chrono who says, so glad with the world in chaos, we can still play games super fast for great causes. Go, runners, go. Oh, that hype train just got to level 4. Oh, yeah. Keep that train going. $25 from Red Magus Clawmus, who says, another year, another great SGDQ. Best of luck to all the runners, and I look forward to raising more money for a worthy cause. Just want to remind everybody, during the last run, we crossed over $100,000, and we are only about 14 hours into this event. Keep it going. Keep us awake through the night with these donations. You put them through, and I'll read them. That is the deal I make with you. One more donation here. We have a $10 donation from Anonymous who says, GDQ hype. Oh, yeah, we can still do hype online. That is for sure. All right, so right now we are going to the Master of Prizes, Sent, who has some information on some prizes.
Hello, and welcome back to Summer Games Done Quick 2020 Online. My name is Sent, and as I've previously said, I'll be popping up all throughout the marathon to tell you all about some of the amazing prizes that you can win by donating during this marathon. I wanted to take some time and tell you about some of the wonderful late night prizes we have going for you right now. All the prizes I'm going to talk about are available from now until the end of Amnesia: The Dark Descent a little bit later this morning. So make sure to get those donations in. Make sure to get them in all through the night. I think that Silhouette Mirage incentive still needs to be met. I'm really looking forward to that run in general. Let's talk about some prizes. We definitely have some cool ones. So from Calliope's, we have these absolutely beautiful patches from Super Mario Odyssey representing the different areas. You got New Donk City, you got Bonneton, you got the Mushroom Kingdom, you got Fossil Falls, there's even a Toast Arena one over here. It's an absolute beautiful set. They all come together, and it's a $5 minimum donation for the whole set. You could have this whole set of patches to put on your jacket, to put on your jeans, to put wherever you like, or a $5 minimum donation if you do win. Now, from our friends over at Fangamer, and Rare, of course, we have not only a Banjo plush, but a Kazooie plush. Because what is Bear without Bird? Probably some kind of racing game. We don't get into that anymore, though. But you know what? These plushies are absolutely adorable. I love them. They look great. They're fun to play with. I really love that Banjo actually has a little backpack on his back, and it's got like a Velcro strap to it, so you can actually open it up. You can stick things in there. You could probably fit Kazooie in there if you bend her legs properly, and then they can be a Banjo-Kazooie plush, just like there are in the game, or in Smash, or in wherever else you find Banjo-Kazooie. The set together are only a $10 minimum donation. So I mean, come on, $10 minimum donation goes to a great cause, and you could take home a Banjo-Kazooie plush. Sounds like a good deal to me. Now, from my good friend, and I am very, very sorry because I'm going to mispronounce your name horribly, Itazwan, we have this absolutely incredible Secret of Mana poster that I'm holding upside down. Yes, even in 2020, Sent can't figure out directions. The thing is absolutely beautiful. It is, of course, the mana tree, modeled after the title screen of the game. One of the most iconic RPG images I know. Frankly, I'll be honest, I've never beaten Secret of Mana, and even I know this image is like an iconic title screen. It's so cool, and it comes with a beautiful matching acrylic charm. The acrylic charm is unfortunately just a little bit too small for me to show off on camera right now, but if you head over to GamesDoneQuick.com and check out the tracker, you're going to find a great picture of it there. Now, from our good friend Nicole, we have an absolutely beautiful collection of Dr. Mario Perlers. This is just one of them. There's also each of the different viruses, as well as the pills and some of the blocks you need to break. These are beautiful. The melts on these are perfect. You know what? The melts on these are so good. I'm gonna get up and risk showing everyone my horribly ripped jeans again. Don't judge me. They're very comfortable, and I'm in my home. And show this off to the camera because the melt on this really is so good. Now let's just slide it right up to the camera there. Oh, it's out of focus. You know what? I can fix that. I am focusing it in the wrong direction. I can't fix it. Now I can. Look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. It's so smooth. All of the perlers are like this. You get the whole Dr. Mario collection, and it's a $20 minimum donation for the set. Hopefully I'm still audible because I'm very far away from the microphone at this point. But I'll say it again when I sit back down. Hopefully I'm also in focus when I sit back down. You know what? It looks like I readjusted correctly. Again, $20 minimum donation for the whole set. You get Dr. Mario, you get all 3 viruses, and you get a bunch of different of the Dr. Mario pills to go with it, and all of them are made to that level of craftsmanship. Now, from our friend Making It Nerdy, we have this absolutely beautiful Power Star string art. I mean, it's a $30 minimum donation, and it's worth every penny. Like, look at this thing. Again, it's made purely out of nails and yellow string. I can't even. When I look at this, my mind understands what it is, and oh yeah, you just wrapped some string around these. Wait a minute, how did you do this? Well, why does this look so good? I don't get it, but it is absolutely amazing. Huge shout outs to Making It Nerdy for making this possible. And of course, we can't talk about prizes without talking about our grand prize. We have so many cool options for you if you win. It's a $200 minimum donation, but it's cumulative throughout the marathon. So hey, donate a little today, donate a little tomorrow, and by the end of the marathon, you'll be entered to win your choice of a replica from our friends over at Heroic Replicas. We have a ton of different replicas you can choose, including a Master Sword, including Link style or Dark Link style, a Hylian Shield, a Zora guitar or bass, which it looks amazing. And I've been told 2 things that I need to point out. 1, there's a whammy bar, which I will stick on right after this interview. But 2, a guitar has 6 strings. I can't count. I'm not here to count, though. I'm here to show you some amazing prizes, like this guitar that you could win. Again, $200 minimum donation. This is one of the choices you could make. You could recolor it to a different finish if you don't like the Zora green. Again, the winner at AGDQ chose Bone White, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. But hey, with that, I'm going to instruct you all to head over to GamesDoneQuick.com and check out the tracker, because you never know what else there might be out there. Hey, son, you ready to do prizes? Who are I just did the prizes. Why would I be? Oh, he's not ready to do prizes. But I just did the prizes. There are no more prizes to do. Oh. Okay. He's not ready. I come back. There's nowhere for him to exit on that side of the screen. That was an error on my part, but it's fine. I still don't know who or what that is. Don't worry about it, but let's throw it back up to the front as we get ready for Silhouette Mirage.
All right, Sent, thank you for the prize information. And can I just say, that is the best genius fireplace I have ever seen. Definitely going to give me inspiration in December. That is for sure. Welcome back to Summer Games Done Quick 2020 online. We're still getting set up for our next run here. This is going to be coming up We have Fireman coming up with Millennium Racer. We're still getting set up on that, though, so I got a few more of your donations that we're going to just go right on through. And also want to tell you a little bit about our upcoming bid incentive. We have a run coming up later, Silhouette Mirage, any percent JP run by, let me get that pulled up here. That's going to be done by Karaoke. And we have a bid war coming up for that. Just want to let you know that is to upgrade to the good ending. The goal for that is $2,500. We're currently at $445 for that. So if you want Silhouette Mirage to be upgraded to the good ending, make sure you get your donations in up to $2,500 for that, because that run is coming up in about it's going to be 2 runs after Millennium Racer. So make sure you get that in. Let's go through a few more of your donations while we're getting set up here. We have a $25 donation from Pig Dog, who says, been watching GDQ since it started and love the work going to a great cause. Thank you to all the runners and volunteers to make these events so awesome. Hype! P.S. Someone needs to make an orb that says hype on the side and honks when you press the button on top. Just an idea. Donation goes to Runner's Choice. Is the world really ready for that, Pig Dog? Do you really think we're ready for that? Do you? Maybe we are. We have a $30 donation from Devil Dog 357, who says, happy to hear Enigma on the mic during the late hours. Glad to see SGDQ during these trying times. Good luck to all the runners, and thank you for a wonderful week of speed runs. Thank you, Devil. It is a pleasure to be here. Always love doing this, for sure. We have a $25 donation from KS Crane, who says, I'm so happy to see SGDQ able to run this great event online. You guys are the greatest. And so are you. All of you that donate to this, you are just as great. Thank you, KS Crane. We have a $50 donation from Luismi Pederillo, who says, thank you guys for keeping this marathon despite the hard times we're living. Good luck to all the runners. Take care and stay safe. Thank you, Luismi. Real quick, just want to tell you about one of our sponsors, somebody who I patronized for their business before I did this run, Fangamer, a video game merch company. New SGDQ merchandise available now, including a face mask, event badges, limited edition pin, pullover hoodie, and more. 100% of profits from GDQ merch sales support MSF's humanitarian mission. Stardew Valley's Collector's Edition now available for pre-order on Fangamer. You can find out more at www.fangamer.com/GDQ. I got my hoodie and my event badge before I got on the mic tonight. You should as well, along with the other great stuff Fangamer provides. We have a $30 donation from Super Saiyan Fife, who says, hard times right now, but a constant light in times of darkness is GDQ. Really glad to be a part of this community. We have a $100 donation from Canon Person 57, who says, I